Chapter 2072. Ji Tianqing's voice reverberated throughout the entire Sky Lion Pass. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers were shocked. Their hearts were filled with reverence and worship. To them, the attack of 1.5 million demonic race soldiers was enough to put the Heavenly Lion Pass on the brink of destruction, and it would be broken through in an instant. However, Ji Tianqing had single-handedly slaughtered millions of demons. Patriarch Xuepao and Demon Saint Azura were notorious demons who had slaughtered countless lives. Their names struck fear into the hearts of the soldiers of the divine nation. Even Deputy Commander Yu and Holy Emperor Bai Shuang might not be able to defeat the two demon saints. However, Ji Tianqing had killed Demon Saint Azura and Patriarch Xuepao. He had displayed his invincible prowess, causing even the ferocious demon saints to feel fear and despair. What kind of shocking battle record was this? What kind of legendary god of slaughter was he? To be able to fight side by side with such a peerless genius, a legendary killing god, against the demon race, that was the honor of every soldier. Previously, Ji Tianqing had criticized Holy Emperor Bai Shuang, saying that his time was precious and he did not want to waste it on useless trash. At that time, everyone was filled with indignation and wanted to chase Ji Tianqing away. They would never accept him. Now, it seemed that the combined merits of all the generals present could not be compared to Ji Tianqing alone. Compared to Ji Tianqing, Deputy Commander Yu and the other generals were truly useless trash. Ji Tianqing had also said that he would help the Sky Lion Pass defeat the demons before helping the other generals. At that time, no one believed him. They all thought that he was arrogant and ignorant like a madman. However, it seemed that he could definitely lead the soldiers to defeat the demons and defend the Sky Lion Pass. No one doubted his words anymore. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers had forgotten about Deputy Commander Yu's existence. All their attention was on Ji Tianqing. Everyone was very excited. They only wanted Ji Tianqing to stay and lead them out of the Sky Lion Pass. They wanted to slaughter the demons outside the pass. As a soldier, who did not want to make contributions and become famous, not to mention a legend like Ji Tianqing, if they could achieve 1% of his battle record, they would be qualified to be a great hero. For a moment, the atmosphere and the situation in the field changed. Those officers and soldiers who were just watching the show all turned to Ji Tianqing and were extremely respectful and worshipful of him. Even most of the soldiers under Yu Fu's command had changed their minds and were wavering. Lu Baishuang saw all of this and couldn't help but smile. He sighed in his heart. No wonder Granny Long repeatedly told me to protect Ji Tianqing and listen to his arrangements and instructions. At that time, I was still unconvinced. But now, Ji Tianqing is truly a rare genius, a dragon or phoenix among the heroes of the world. At the same time, Ji Tianqing continued in a calm tone. I was ordered to join the war in the north and serve as the deputy commander of the Sky Lion Pass. It is your honor, and the fortune of the people of the White Frost Empire. My time was precious, so I didn't want to bother myself with the schemes of some despicable people. I just want to destroy the demonic army in the shortest time possible and restore peace and tranquility to the Empire of White Frost. And some people can be complacent with such a pitiful battle record and claim to be loyal and brave officials who have worked hard for a long time. Isn't that ridiculous? I call you useless trash. Do you accept that? If Ji Tianqing didn't show off his battle record and strength before, the soldiers wouldn't be convinced and would make a big fuss. But now, when he asked this question from a commanding position, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers fell silent, not daring to answer. The soldiers who had been making a ruckus earlier all lowered their heads in shame. They were so embarrassed that they wanted to die. Ji Tianqing frowned and asked again in a dignified tone, "Are you convinced?" The soldiers were silent for a while. Then someone mustered up the courage to answer, "Yes." Ji Tianqing raised his voice and asked in an even more dignified tone, "Are you convinced?" This time, countless soldiers answered in unison, "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a serious tone, "That's good. If you want to wash away this shameful title, you have to go to the battlefield and kill the enemy, and make more contributions. I will lead you to fight against the demonic army, slaughter the demonic army, and win victory and peace. Do you want to be a warrior who returns victorious, a hero in the hearts of the people?" His voice spread throughout the Sky Lion Pass and made the blood of hundreds of thousands of soldiers boil. Countless people raised their arms and shouted, "Yes!" Ji Tianqing said in a dignified tone, "Louder!" Hundreds of thousands of soldiers raised their weapons and shouted hoarsely, "Yes!" The powerful sound waves resounded in the sky above the Sky Lion Pass, shaking the two huge mountains. At this moment, the blood of the 1 million soldiers in the Sky Lion Pass was boiling, and their morale was soaring. Lu Baishuang finally showed a smile. She looked at Ji Tianqing with her clear and bright eyes, and there was a strong sense of appreciation in her eyes. No wonder Granny Long treats him like a nephew, and the Divine Master trusts him unconditionally. This person was truly a worldly talent, a monstrous genius that had never been seen before. Although I am the ruler of the White Frost Empire, and hundreds of millions of people respect me, I can't do this. But this emperor can't be like him, turning the situation around in just an hour, and making those who look down on him become his fans and worshippers. With him in charge of the Sky Lion Pass, victory is in sight. The 4 generals behind Lu Baishuang also showed gratified smiles, and they admired and praised Ji Tianqing very much. Not far away, Yu Fu's face was as black as the bottom of a pot, gloomy as ice, and his eyes were full of disappointment and despair. He knew very well that he had lost the confrontation with Ji Tianqing. He had lost completely, and he had been utterly defeated. This damn bastard, with just a few words, he incited hundreds of thousands of soldiers to support him. How did this despicable bastard do it? Yu Fu was an ancestor-level expert, and he certainly knew how Ji Tianqing had done it. However, the blow of failure was too great, and he could not believe or accept such a frustrating result. After a long time, the shouts that resounded through the sky finally dissipated. Ji Tianqing waved his sleeve and said in a loud voice, "Everyone, remember what you said tonight. Soon you will be proud of your choice." After saying that, he looked at Yu Fu with disdain, and turned to look at Lu Baishuang beside him, and said in a calm voice, "Lu Baishuang, you do as you see fit." His attitude towards Lu Baishuang was as casual as ever, without the slightest respect. However, no one felt that it was inappropriate, and they felt that it was natural. Lu Baishuang took a step forward, looked at Yu Fu with a dignified face and announced loudly, "From today onwards, Yu Fu will be removed from the position of deputy commander, and will be transferred to White Mountain City to take charge of internal affairs." With a simple sentence, Yu Fu was reduced from a noble deputy commander to a small official in the rear of the city. The difference in status could be said to be the difference between clouds and mud. Such a huge drop made Yu Fu feel deeply humiliated and angry. Chapter 2073. Yu Fu was the martial arts master of the Baishuang Empire, a respected ancestor. Being demoted from a deputy commander to a minor official in the Imperial Household Department was a great humiliation, and he could not accept it. In order to preserve what little face he had left, he would rather resign from his position and return to the sect to retire. Lu Baishuang understood his feelings, so she did not blame him and nodded in agreement. Then Yu Fu staggered and left, his figure disappearing into the night sky. After Yu Fu left, Lu Baishuang retracted her gaze and announced, "From today onwards, young Master Ji Tianqing will take over the position of deputy commander and lead the 3 armies in battle. No one is allowed to disobey young Master Ji's orders, or this emperor will punish them severely. If anyone colludes and opposes young Master Ji's orders, they will be killed without mercy." The clear and cold voice spread throughout the entire Heavenly Lion Pass. The millions of soldiers heard it clearly, and their bodies trembled, their hearts filled with awe. Lu Baishuang then ordered the 4 generals behind her, "Let the soldiers disperse, do not slack off on defense. The 4 of you go and gather the construction team. Repair the scout camp as soon as possible and restore it to its original state." The 4 generals hurriedly cupped their hands in obeisance, and went to carry out their respective tasks. In the sky, only Lu Baishuang and Ji Tianqing were left. Lu Baishuang nodded to Ji Tianqing and smiled. "Young Master Ji, this emperor did not expect things to turn out like this. This emperor was negligent. Now that young Master Ji has turned the tables and won the hearts of the millions of soldiers, it is truly worthy of celebration." Young Master Ji, please come to the commander's palace, and let this emperor hold a welcoming dinner for you. Ji Tianqing glanced at her and smiled. There is no need for a welcoming dinner. My time is tight, let's get down to business first. Hearing the words get down to business first, Lu Baishuang did not know why, but a strange feeling arose in her heart, and a trace of undetectable shyness flashed through her eyes. But she immediately threw away the thought in her mind, and maintained a dignified posture, nodding. That is also good, young Master Ji, please. With that, she led the way and personally led Ji Tianqing to the commander's palace. Lu Baishuang's commander's palace was located at the summit of the western mountain. It was a magnificent main palace surrounded by 12 other palaces. The interior of the main palace was decorated in a grand and imposing manner, but it was not overly luxurious. After the two entered the commander's palace, they walked into the conference hall. They came before a huge sand table and began to discuss military affairs. This 30-meter-wide sandbox was very lifelike. It clearly showed the terrain and the deployment of the troops within 100,000 miles. Ji Tianqing stood in front of the sand table and stared at it intently, carefully observing every part of the terrain and defense. While he was observing, he also memorized all the terrain and defensive arrangements. He remembered everything clearly, from big checkpoints and barracks to small sentry posts and arrow towers. For an entire hour his gaze never left the sand table. Lu Baishuang was very familiar with the sand table, so he didn't look at it too much. His eyes were fixed on Ji Tianqing. Although she had only interacted with Ji Tianqing for 2 hours, she had already heard of him. She had also seen with her own eyes how he had turned the tables in a desperate situation, and how high-spirited he was. In her eyes, Ji Tianqing was an enigmatic existence. She wanted to see through him. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Lu Baishuang was looking at Ji Tianqing absent-mindedly, thinking of other things. Ji Tianqing suddenly retracted his gaze and turned to look at her. He said in a playful tone, "Lu Baishuang, you've been staring at me for an hour. Haven't you seen enough? I heard that you're not married and don't have a Dao companion. Could it be that you have feelings for me?" Lu Baishuang suddenly came back to her senses. When she heard his flirtatious words, her beautiful face turned cold. She said with some shame and anger, "Young Master Ji, please conduct yourself with dignity and don't speak nonsense." Ji Tianqing immediately revealed a relieved smile. He nodded and said, "And that's right. I was worried that you would be infatuated with me and secretly have a crush on me. After all, I already have a family." His tone was very calm and natural, without the slightest exaggeration. It was very true. Because of this, Lu Baishuang was even more embarrassed and angry. She couldn't help but ask, "Young Master Ji, when you talk to others, are you also so flirtatious and narcissistic? Do you know that this empress is the youngest saint emperor of the Luo River Divine Kingdom, and is also the empress who is admired by millions of men? Is this empress so unbearable in your eyes?" Ji Tianqing hurriedly shook his head. He looked at her from head to toe and said seriously, "With your talent and appearance, of course you're a rare beauty. However, my heart already belongs to someone. It's impossible for the two of us to be together. So you should kill any thoughts of love as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll be hurt and everyone will think that I'm a heartless man. I'll be so wronged." Lu Baishuang had always been dignified. She didn't show her emotions on her face, but she was still angered by Ji Tianqing's words. "You, Ji Tianqing, you're really narcissistic, arrogant and shameless. Do you think this empress will like you? Don't think too highly of yourself. This empress doesn't like you at all." Ji Tianqing smiled again and patted his chest. And then I'm relieved. This way it won't affect our cooperation." Lu Baishuang was so angry that her chest rose and fell rapidly. She almost choked on her breath and couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. "Ji Tianqing, this empress is very regretful. If I knew you were like this, I wouldn't have agreed to let Granny Long bring you here." Ji Tianqing looked at her with a serious face and said in a serious tone, "Lu Baishuang, you're wrong. You're taking the lives of hundreds of millions of people as a joke. This is murder." Lu Baishuang was stunned and looked at him with a puzzled face. Ji Tianqing explained, "Because of your own emotions, You didn't let me come to Heavenly Lion Pass to help. This led to the fall of Heavenly Lion Pass, and hundreds of millions of people were massacred by the demon army. Tell me, aren't you the main culprit, the eternal sinner? Lu Baishuang rolled her eyes again, and held her forehead speechlessly. She smiled bitterly and said, Ji Tianxing, I don't want to bicker with you. I admit defeat, okay? Now, I'll arrange a place for you to stay. You can stay here with peace of mind. Starting tomorrow, I'll send 2 deputy generals to be your assistants. Lu Baishuang couldn't stand him and didn't want to stay a moment longer. The empress, who had always been calm and dignified, was now in a mess. She didn't even have a dignified bearing. She was afraid that if she continued to pester him, she would be led into a ditch by Ji Tianxing and say something unbefitting of her status. Simply put, she was afraid that after being teased by Ji Tianxing a few times, she wouldn't be able to help but curse him or vomit blood. Who knew that when Ji Tianxing saw her turn to leave, he pulled her arm and said with a smile, Why wait until tomorrow? Let's start tonight. I'm in a hurry, so you have to hurry. Lu Baishuang was stunned and stared at him with her eyes wide open. Her eyes were filled with shame and anger. Chapter 2074. Lu Baishuang was crying. Her clear and beautiful eyes were covered with a thin layer of mist. Ji Tianxing saw her like this and felt a little helpless. He smiled bitterly and said, Lu Baishuang, what are you doing? I didn't bully you. I'm talking about proper business. It's a military mission. Are you getting the wrong idea? Lu Baishuang glared at him and said coldly, Ji Tianxing, I have something to do in White Mountain City. I'll be back in 3 days. I'll leave Sky Lion Pass to you. You must guard it well. Don't mess up. If Sky Lion Pass is lost, I won't forgive you. I'll report you to the Divine Master. Lu Baishuang turned around and left angrily. She didn't care about Ji Tianxing's persuasion, and left as if she was escaping. When Lu Baishuang's figure disappeared into the night, Ji Tianxing revealed a triumphant smile and muttered to himself, I didn't expect the dignified Holy Emperor Baishuang to be so easy to tease. I didn't even use my strength and she ran away. That's good. If she's not in Sky Lion Pass, I can control the situation and carry out the plan as soon as possible. Obviously, Ji Tianxing wouldn't tease Holy Emperor Baishuang for no reason. Of course, there was a conspiracy. He had heard from Granny Long that Holy Emperor Baishuang was the youngest martial saint in the divine nation. She was still an unmarried girl. Because Lu Baishuang was too young, she had to pretend to be cold and dignified. She was also more mature and didn't dare to be too aggressive. He and Lu Baishuang had different views. If Lu Baishuang stayed in Sky Lion Pass, she would be in a stalemate with him and waste time. This time, he had to cut the Gordian knot and end the battle quickly. Only after Lu Baishuang left in anger could he go all out. Soon the meeting hall quieted down. Ji Tianxing stared at the battle sand table and carefully observed it. At the same time he was thinking about the next plan. One battle plan after another, bold ideas kept popping up in his mind. After leaving the commander's palace, Lu Baishuang left Sky Lion Pass with 2 maids. The 3 of them stepped on a white cloud and sped through the night sky toward White Mountain City. Lu Baishuang stood on top of the cloud, looking at the night sky with a complicated expression. Sometimes she frowned, sometimes she was angry, and sometimes she was annoyed and regretful. The 2 maids behind her were both at the 8th level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. They wore golden armor and looked heroic. The maid on the left hesitated for a moment before asking, Lord Saint Emperor, are you really going to leave the Heavenly Lion Pass and hand over the power to Ji Tianxing? He had just arrived at the Heavenly Lion Pass, and had yet to figure out the situation. He was also not familiar with the situation of the 3 million strong army. In 3 days, I'm afraid he won't even be able to remember the names of the generals, and then something will happen. Lu Baishuang was actually very regretful. He felt that his approach was too immature. However, at that time, Ji Tianxing had poked at her heart, and she had also been ridiculed and teased. This had made her flustered for a moment, and she had made this absurd decision. However, now that she had calmed down, even if she wanted to return to the Heavenly Lion Pass, she could not muster the courage to do so. What do you know? Ji Tianqing is the most valued disciple of the Divine Master. His strength and talent are outstanding, and he is also the famous white-clothed killing god. He can definitely guard the Heavenly Lion Pass. Moreover, I have already instructed the great generals to take control of the situation. Even if Ji Tianqing sleeps in the Heavenly Lion Pass for 3 days, nothing will happen. The two maids in golden armor nodded, and they were relieved. The maid on the right asked again, Lord Saint Emperor, I saw that you were unhappy just now, and you seem to have something on your mind. Is it because of Ji Tianqing? Lu Baishuang, of course, flatly denied it. He said with a dignified expression, How is that possible? I have only met him once, and I have not even spoken a few words to him. How can I be angry with him? Don't ask any more questions. I am thinking about a serious matter. Oh, the two maids replied and looked at each other. They did not believe this statement. They were Lu Baishuang's personal bodyguards and trusted maids. They had seen Lu Baishuang and Ji Tianqing enter the conference hall and stay there for an hour. Finally, Lu Baishuang rushed out angrily, and the corners of his eyes were still wet, as if he had been bullied. However, Lu Baishuang refused to admit it, and the two maids did not dare to ask more. They could only secretly gossip and guess. Could it be that Ji Tianqing bullied Lord Saint Emperor? Ji Tianqing is so arrogant that he does not put Lord Saint Emperor in his eyes. It is very possible. Damn stinky men, none of them are good. Seeing that our Lord Saint Emperor is beautiful, he must have evil thoughts. That's right. Unfortunately, his identity is noble. Lord Saint Emperor has to consider the overall situation. And for the peace of the empire, she can only swallow his anger. Lord Saint Emperor is so pitiful. She has been obsessed with martial arts all her life, and has worried so much for the people of the empire. She has not even met the person she likes, and she has already been taken advantage of by a lecher. However, I think that Ji Tianqing is handsome and strong. He is also the #1 god's disciple in the empire. If he really did that with our Lord Saint Emperor, it would be a good match, right? The two maids discussed secretly via voice transmission. After letting their imaginations run wild for a while, they were filled with emotions and had complicated feelings. Achoo! Ji Tianqing was observing the sand table and thinking about the battle plan when he suddenly sneezed. He did not raise his head and rubbed the tip of his nose, and muttered to himself, She must be scolding me behind my back. The women really can't be offended. At this moment, two middle-aged generals strode into the hall with their heads held high. These two generals were the old subordinates of the right deputy marshal, and were second only to the deputy marshal. They each led an army of 200,000 soldiers. The two of them came behind Ji Tianqing and bowed respectfully. General Xie Zhonglin, greets Marshal Ji. Xie and Zhonglin were the two deputies that Lu Baishuang had mentioned, and they had always been loyal to her. Ji Tianqing nodded and responded, The two of you are the deputies that Lu Baishuang arranged for me, right? Xie cupped his hands and replied, Yes. Marshal Ji, since you're new here, let this subordinate give you a brief overview of the defensive arrangements. Ji Tianqing did not answer, but asked instead, This sand table is updated daily, right? Zhonglin nodded and said, That's right. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, If that's the case, then you don't have to explain. I know the situation around the Heavenly Lion Pass like the back of my hand. Xie and Zhonglin looked at each other, and their eyes were filled with shock. It had only been an hour. Deputy Marshal Ji had just arrived and he did not ask anything. He only looked at the sand table for a while, and he already knew the situation? He was simply a god. While the two generals were still in a daze, Ji Tianqing ordered in a dignified tone. Xie Zhonglin, listen up. Immediately gather 50,000 elite soldiers at the valley at the foot of the mountain on the east side. The two of them subconsciously straightened their bodies and listened to the order respectfully. After listening, the two of them frowned and could not help but ask, Marshal Ji, why are you gathering 50,000 soldiers now? Chapter 2075. Xie and Zhonglin didn't understand what Ji Tianqing meant. Ji Tianqing glanced at them and said indifferently, There are 80,000 demon elites on the Cleaving mountain outside the pass. That's a fortress that can be attacked and defended. It's also the fang of the demon army. I'll go and pull out that fang tonight. First, I'll raise the morale of the soldiers and give the demon army a warning. He said it casually, but when Xie Wen and Zhonglin heard it, they were dumbfounded. Their eyes widened in shock. After they came back to their senses, they waved their hands and tried to persuade Ji Tianxing. Commander Ji, you can't do this. The Cleaving Mountain is the outpost of the demon army. There's a saint-level demon formation and 4 great demon kings guarding it. Deputy Commander, you once led a team to attack it, but they failed and suffered heavy casualties. Left Deputy Commander Yu Fu had also led troops to attack once, but he had also suffered a crushing defeat and had lost 60,000 soldiers. The demon army has set up an inescapable net there. Once they rush to the Cleaving Mountain, they won't be able to return. Ji Tianxing looked at them expressionlessly. He frowned and asked, "It seems that you two are scared out of your wits? Just 80,000 demons scared you like this. How are you going to deal with the millions of demon army in the future?" Xie Wen and Zhonglin could only smile bitterly and continue to explain, "Commander Ji, it's not that we're scared. We can't make unnecessary sacrifices. Everyone knows that once we take down the Cleaving Mountain, the demon army will be easily divided and broken. The demon army also knows this. That's why they've invested a lot in the Cleaving Mountain. It's impregnable. Commander Ji, I'm going a bit overboard. You've just been appointed and you want to take the risk to attack the most difficult Cleaving Mountain. This is definitely a taboo. Once you fail, the morale will drop and the army will be unstable. It'll affect your prestige." The two tried to persuade him, but Ji Tianxing ignored them. He waved his hand and ordered, "You don't need to say more. I've made up my mind. You just need to follow my orders." Xie Wen and Zhonglin's faces were filled with helplessness. They could only look at each other and smile bitterly. Just as Lord Saint Emperor expected, Ji Tianxing really doesn't play by the rules. Before Lord Saint Emperor left, he warned us not to let him do as he pleased. I didn't expect him to cause trouble so soon. What should we do? Should we inform the Saint Emperor? What else can we do? He could only report the truth to the Saint Emperor. Otherwise, who would dare to take on this responsibility? The two of them discussed secretly for a while, and then excused themselves from Ji Tianxing, and left the conference hall. On the other side, Lu Baishuang was speeding through the night sky. Suddenly, a stream of light flew over from afar and landed in her palm. When the light dissipated, a communication jade slip was revealed in his palm. Lu Baishuang quickly released his divine sense, invaded the jade slip, and read the information inside. When she finished reading the information in the jade slip, her expression changed and she frowned. Damn you! The moment this emperor left, he immediately became restless. Humph! This bastard! He must have deliberately angered this emperor to leave. How smart was Lu Baishuang? After leaving Sky Lion Pass in a fit of pique, she always felt that something was wrong. Now that Ji Tianxing wanted to stir up trouble, she immediately guessed Ji Tianxing's conspiracy. The two golden-armored maids saw her strange expression and asked with concern, "Lord Saint Emperor, what happened?" Lu Baishuang said in a low voice, "Ji Tianxing, that brat, gathered 50,000 soldiers overnight to attack Cleaving Mountain. He said it was to raise the morale of the soldiers and give the demons a warning." The two maids also changed their expressions. One of them shook her head and said, "This guy is too unreliable. Everyone knows that Cleaving Mountain is a fortress and also the outpost of the demons' camp. Its defense is very strong. The two deputy commanders have personally led troops to attack it, but they all failed." The other maid also quickly persuaded, "Lord Saint Emperor, in my opinion, let's go back to Sky Lion Pass. If you are not here with Ji Tianxing's temper, he will definitely cause a lot of trouble." Lu Baishuang was a little hesitant. After thinking for a while, she said, "No need, let's go back to White Mountain City. As the saying goes, don't doubt people you use and don't use people you doubt. Since this emperor has chosen to believe him, I will give him a chance to prove himself. Moreover, he is a person that Granny Long and the Divine Master think highly of. He should not be so shallow." Seeing that Lu Baishuang had made up her mind, the two maids could not say more. They could only keep silent. The night was dark and the wind was strong. It was cold and the ground was frozen. At the foot of the mountain on the east side of Sky Lion Pass, in a dark and cold valley, a total of 50,000 black-armored human warriors gathered in the valley in silence, standing in a neat formation. No one made any noise. Only the armor and swords reflected the cold light from time to time. Ji Tianqing, Xie Wen, and Zhong Lin stood in the night sky, looking down at the 50,000 soldiers. Ji Tianqing nodded to show his satisfaction with the soldiers' condition. After all, this was the front line of the northern battlefield. The army was strictly governed, and military orders were like mountains. Ji Tianqing took out 20 mysterious talismans from his interspatial ring and gave them to Xie Wen and Zhong Lin. Go and distribute these talismans to the 10 commanders. Give each of them 2 talismans. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin took the 20 talismans and looked at them with puzzlement. 10 of the talismans were golden, and the other 10 were red. They had different effects and functions, but they all contained powerful energy waves. Xie Wen was puzzled and asked, Marshal Ji, what are these talismans for? Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said with a serious face, Of course they are very useful. Whether or not we can achieve our goal tonight will depend on these talismans. Then he waved his hand and ordered, Pass down my order. Everyone move out. Be sure to hide your swords and weapons well. Hide your figures and auras well. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin did not dare to say anything. They hurried to pass down the order. Soon Ji Tianqing and the 2 generals led the 50,000 soldiers out of the valley. Under the cover of the darkness, they sneaked out of the pass. Cleaving Mountain was outside of the Sky Lion Pass. 800 li to the northeast, it was a straight and steep mountain that was thousands of zhang high. There were valleys on both sides of the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a natural cave that led to the back of the mountain. Behind the mountain was a flat valley. A camp of the demon race was stationed here. There were about 400,000 elite warriors. Cleaving Mountain was easy to defend and hard to attack. Furthermore, the demon race had spent a lot of money to set up a defense. It could be said that it was unbreakable. In addition, behind the Cleaving Mountain was a vanguard camp of the demon race. There were 400,000 demon warriors in it. Once the Cleaving Mountain was about to be lost, those 400,000 demon warriors would immediately take it back. Because of this, the left and right deputy marshals had personally led troops to attack, but none of them succeeded. At this time it was the middle of the night. There were lights on the Cleaving Mountain. From the foot of the mountain to the top, there were dozens of watchtowers. All of them were guarded by demon warriors. Chapter 2076. There was no moon tonight, and even the stars were sparse in the sky. As time went by, the night sky became darker and darker. In the night sky around the Cleaving Mountain, gray clouds gathered silently, as if a storm was coming. The mountain was still peaceful, and no one noticed anything unusual. No one believed that the human warriors of the Sky Lion Pass had the guts to attack the Cleaving Mountain. After all, the 2 deputy commanders of the Sky Lion Pass had come to attack in person, but they both failed miserably. With the terrain and defensive power of the Cleaving Mountain, they weren't afraid of the human warriors' attack at all. No one realized that a crisis was approaching. Furthermore, no one saw Ji Tianqing, who was wearing a white robe and empty-handed, swaggering up the Cleaving Mountain. He performed the secret technique of turbid sky, and his body and aura merged with the heaven and earth. Even if he passed by the powerful warriors of the demon race, no one could sense his existence. He acted alone and arrived at the Cleaving Mountain in just a few seconds. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were on the way to the Cleaving Mountain with 50,000 warriors. After a while, Ji Tianqing arrived at the checkpoint at the foot of the mountain. There were over 1,000 demon warriors guarding here, and over 3,000 elite warriors in the dark. It was impossible to attack by force. Ji Tianqing walked to a tall black stone tablet and had to stop. In front of him was an invisible barrier, which was the defensive shield of the sacred level demon formation. Only the demon warriors could enter and leave. Once the alien warriors got close, they would activate the formation and be killed by the counterforce. Ji Tianqing performed the secret technique of the divine eye and stared at the invisible formation for a long time. The invisible demon Dao formation turned into thousands of veins in his eyes, with monstrous demon power flowing in them. 15 minutes later, he suddenly showed a cold smile and raised his eyebrows confidently. So it's the common dark shadow soul attack formation. It can distinguish between the demon race and the alien race based on the soul waves. If it's the demon race, the formation will let them through automatically. If it's the alien race, the formation will release the soul attack and kill the intruder on the spot. For ordinary warriors, the formation that involves the soul is the most difficult to break. Yu Fu and the deputy commander came to attack the Cleaving mountain, but they didn't have a chance to break the formation secretly. They could only lead the army to attack. Of course, they suffered a great loss. Ji Tianqing understood the reason, and silently performed the secret technique of turbid sky, hiding his soul waves. After a few breaths, his soul and aura was hidden. He didn't have any soul or soul. He was just like a cold stone. Swoosh! He took a step forward and smoothly passed through the great dark shadow soul assault array, entering the array. It didn't trigger the attack of the great array, nor did it make any noise. It didn't alarm any of the demon race. After all, the dark shadow soul assault grand formation would only attack outsiders with abnormal soul fluctuations. Items that did not have life or soul waves, such as rocks, clothes, rotten wood, and so on, would not trigger any attacks. Ji Tianqing had concealed his divine soul's aura and energy waves like a rock. Of course, the formation wouldn't attack him. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. After entering the formation, Ji Tianqing was unimpeded and swaggered to the top of the mountain. Along the way, he had a clear understanding of the defense of the entire mountain, the strength and distribution of the demon race. After a while, he came to the top of the mountain. The flat top of the mountain had a radius of 50 miles. A demon camp was built. In the middle, there were more than a dozen solemn black palaces. Ji Tianqing transformed into heaven and earth. Although there was no trace to be found, he could see everything in this area clearly. He clearly saw that there were more than 60,000 demon warriors in the demon camp. Most of them were recuperating. In each black palace, there were a large number of primordial soul realm experts and a few tribulation realm experts. They were all generals of the demon race. What surprised him even more was that in the middle of the majestic palace, there were more than a dozen tribulation realm experts. The dozen or so tribulation transcending realm experts of the demon clan were discussing military affairs in the solemn conference hall. Sitting at the top were 4 experts of different sizes. Their strength had reached the 5th level of the tribulation realm and above. Ji Tianqing could immediately determine that they were the 4 demon monarchs. Aha! Just as I expected, I caused such a big commotion in the Heavenly Lion Pass today. It will definitely alarm the spies and scouts of the demon race. The 4 demon monarchs and demon generals must have learned of the changes in the Heavenly Lion Pass and are discussing how to deal with it. Ji Tianqing sneered inwardly as he silently approached the palace. He maintained his invisible state and hid the aura and waves of his divine soul. He swaggered into the meeting hall and sat on the God-fiend statue at the top. The 4 demon monarchs were sitting at his feet, but they did not notice him at all. They were still discussing military affairs with the demon generals. A demon monarch who looked like a bull and had 2 horns was grinning and saying, "Everyone, I have great news to tell you. I'm sure everyone has heard it, right? Today, a human expert came to the Heavenly Lion Pass and caused a big commotion. He even took away the position of deputy commander." The original left deputy commander Yu Fu was removed from his position in public by Holy Emperor Bai Shuang. He could not bear the humiliation and ran away. Although the demon generals had already heard of this matter, they still roared with laughter. Ha ha ha. What a joke. Holy Emperor Bai Shuang has always been cautious. What's wrong with her brain? It's a big taboo to change the commander at the last minute. It will definitely affect the morale of the army. Moreover, that human expert who appeared out of nowhere is very young and unfamiliar. I also heard that the young man is extremely arrogant. Not only did he cause havoc in the Heavenly Lion Pass, he also injured more than 100 generals. That kid isn't our spy, is he? This is a good opportunity for us. Anyway, since such a thing happened in the Heavenly Lion Pass, it must be a mess now. The morale of the army is unstable. We have to take the opportunity to attack. The 4 demon monarchs and demon generals were mocking and ridiculing this matter. They regarded it as a big joke. At the same time, this was a heaven-sent opportunity for them. After everyone laughed for a while, the leader of the demon monarchs said, "Everyone, this is indeed an unexpected surprise. It's the best opportunity for us to break through the Heavenly Lion Pass. However, Holy Emperor Bai Shuang has always been cautious. She actually removed Yu Fu and changed the commander at the last minute. I'm afraid there's a trap. I will send elite scouts to the Heavenly Lion Pass to find out more information. Once we confirm that the news is true and that the Heavenly Lion Pass is really in chaos, we have to send troops immediately. We can't delay any longer." Another demon monarch nodded in agreement. Demon monarch and gang is right. He has already sent scouts to investigate. What we have to do is to mobilize the army as soon as possible and be on standby at any time. We have to prepare to give the Heavenly Lion Pass a thunderous blow. When the demon generals heard this, they all rubbed their fists and their blood boiled. Ji Tianxing secretly sneered. "You only think of attacking the Heavenly Lion Pass now? It's too late." Chapter 2077. Swoosh. The terrifying divine power of heaven and earth turned into an invisible palm and suddenly grabbed the head of a demon monarch. This demon monarch's strength had reached the 6th level of the Crossing Calamity realm. However, he did not notice the invisible giant palm at all. Crack! With a crisp cracking sound, this demon monarch's head was crushed on the spot. His flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and his brains splattered all over the ground. Even his soul was crushed, and he died on the spot. The other 3 demon monarchs and more than a dozen demon generals were happily discussing the matter of dispatching troops. The sudden turn of events caused the hall to fall silent. Everyone was stunned. Everyone stared at the headless corpse of the demon monarch in horror, and slowly fell to the ground. The air seemed to have frozen. Everyone forgot to breathe. Their hearts were filled with shock and confusion. After a while, everyone came back to their senses. Suddenly, they burst into an uproar and exclaimed, "Damn it! How could this be? The demon monarch has been fine. Why did his head suddenly burst? Someone must have attacked him. Everyone, search and find the assassin." "It's impossible. We were all sitting in the main hall. Not to mention that we did not see the attacker. There was not even a trace of danger." More than a dozen demon generals were in a panic. They took out their swords and sabers and looked around for the assassin. The 3 demon monarchs' faces were very ugly. They also released their divine senses to cover the entire Chiefing Mountain to investigate the abnormal situation and aura. Ji Tianxing sat on the demon god statue and looked down at the main hall. Seeing everyone in a mess and panicking, he could not help but sneer. Although he was close at hand, no one discovered his existence. After a full 100 breaths, the 3 demon monarchs and more than a dozen demon generals still did not find anything. At this time, demon monarch and gang said, "This matter is too strange. Everyone, please calm down. I have already checked the corpse and can confirm that someone attacked secretly. However, we did not find any trace of the assassin. This assassin's strength must be very powerful. That's why we can't find any traces. I and the 2 demon monarchs will sit here. Generals, quickly mobilize the scouts and search the entire Chiefing Mountain." Hearing his words, the dozen or so demon generals looked at each other in dismay, revealing awkward expressions. "Devil Monarch and gang, isn't our Chiefing Mountain protected by a saint-level formation? How could an assassin sneak in? If it was really done by an assassin, not only would he be able to break into the sacred array, he would also be able to kill the demon king silently. Wouldn't the assassin's strength be at the martial sage realm? Martial saints acting as assassins? The Heavenly Lion Pass only has 2 martial saints. One is Holy Emperor Bai Shuang and the other is Yu Fu. It's definitely not that trash Yu Fu. The only possibility is Holy Emperor Bai Shuang. She personally took action." Just as the crowd was discussing animatedly, Ji Tianxing silently made his move again. He once again manipulated the divine power of heaven and earth to form a formless fist aura, which he hurled toward the head of a demon monarch. The demon lord had long been on his guard. Sensing the approaching danger, he subconsciously moved 3 zhang away, instinctively avoiding the danger. However, his speed was too slow. Boom. There was another explosion, and the demon lord's head exploded on the spot. It exploded like a watermelon, with purple blood and broken bones splattering everywhere. The demon lord's spiritual soul was also shattered into pieces, mixed with blood and flesh, and scattered on the floor of the main hall. The 2 demon generals who were closer to the demon lord were still stained with blood. They were so frightened that their faces turned pale, and they hurriedly took a few steps back. In the next moment, the demon lord's headless corpse slowly fell to the ground with a plop sound. The 10 demon generals were dumbfounded. Their eyes were wide open, and they were filled with fear. The 2 demon lords who were lucky enough to survive were already prepared. When Ji Tianqing made his move, they finally caught a glimpse of his aura. Although they could not see Ji Tianqing's figure, they could determine Ji Tianqing's position. The 2 of them let out a low roar and attacked Ji Tianqing together. "You are courting death. Show yourself." Demon Lord Gang raised his fists and blasted out 2 blood-red fist auras. The other demon lord gripped his heavy sword and viciously slashed out a massive blade of black light. Ji Tianqing remained invisible. With a whoosh, he teleported out of the main hall and dodged the attacks of the 2 demon lords. The 2 massive fist auras and the blade of black light struck the walls of the conference hall at the same time. Rumble. The walls of the hall were blasted apart, sending countless shards of stone flying everywhere. The entire wall collapsed, and the conference hall was also on the verge of collapse. A muffled boom resounded through the night sky, immediately alarming countless patrolling guards. A large number of patrolling guards hurried to the conference hall as quickly as possible to investigate the situation. The palaces and barracks in all directions also lit up with lights, and there was a burst of noise. The 2 demon lords, having failed in their attack, rushed out of the conference hall and continued their search for Ji Tianqing. The 10 demon generals also panicked. They all gripped their weapons and formed a circle with their backs against each other, guarding against Ji Tianqing's sudden attack. But all of this was futile. Ji Tianqing quickly attacked again. While a demon lord was searching the area, he used the same trick again. He used the divine power of heaven and earth to condense a massive sword and viciously slash down. The demon lord sensed something amiss and promptly brandished his heavy sword to block. But with his weak strength, how could he block Ji Tianqing's attack? Boom. Crack. With a loud boom, he was cleaved in 2 by the invisible sword. The heavy sword in his hand was also sent flying. The 3rd demon lord was also killed, leaving only demon lord Gang alive. Such a scene left demon monarch Gang horrified. He was infuriated to the point of madness. "Who is it? Get out here for this lord. What kind of expert are you to hide in the dark and ambush? If you have the guts, show yourself and fight this lord for 300 rounds. Demon Lord Gang brandished a treasured saber and roared in grief and indignation. The 10 demon generals were scared out of their wits. They knew that the assassin's strength was extremely terrifying, so they did not dare to stay any longer. Swish. 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 They actually scattered and quickly fled the assembly hall, burrowing into the surrounding darkness. Ji Tianqing saw everything clearly. He used his ultimate move again and charged at Demon Lord Gang. Star-shattering fist. He suddenly appeared behind Demon Lord Gang. His fists blasted out resplendent silver starlight that enveloped Demon Lord Gang's figure. Demon Lord Gang sensed the aura of death descend upon him, and immediately felt his soul leave his body. His eyes revealed an intense look of despair. His body flashed with purple light, as he donned a supreme-grade tribulation-level armor. He held a treasured saber with both hands and slashed at Ji Tianqing with all his might. Boom. Crack. With a thunderous boom, Demon Monarch Gang was sent flying. The armor shattered into countless fragments, mixed with flesh and blood, scattering into the ruins. The treasured saber was also sent flying, stabbing into a broken wall. Chapter 2078. The Cleaving Mountain was in chaos. In the middle of the night, the mountain was brightly lit. Fire was everywhere. Countless demon warriors in armor and holding swords were searching for assassins in a hurry. Many scouts flew into the sky and used secret techniques to search the entire Cleaving Mountain. Of course, the news that the 4 great demon kings were assassinated spread out in the camp. Dozens of generals were terrified. They hurriedly sent out messages asking for help. Tens of thousands of demons were in a mess. They were running around in the camp. There were even deserters. Ji Tianqing didn't stay idle. He was still in his invisible state, creating chaos on the Cleaving Mountain. Wherever there were many people, no matter if it was a mansion, a palace or a camp, he would release 2 of his secret techniques to smash it. All kinds of dazzling lights and shadows of spells smashed down with the power to destroy the heaven and earth, making loud rumbling noises. Along with the explosions, palaces and camps turned into ashes one after another in the blazing light and shadows. Groups of demon soldiers were smashed into pieces on the spot. They didn't even have whole corpses left. In a short time of 100 breaths, Ji Tianqing had killed more than 20,000 demon soldiers. The entire peak of the Cleaving Mountain had become a mess. There were broken walls, deep pits, and cracks everywhere. The remaining tens of thousands of demon soldiers were scared out of their wits. They roared and cursed angrily and helplessly. Unfortunately, they couldn't find Ji Tianqing. They had nowhere to vent their anger. They could only retreat and find a place to hide. Ji Tianqing calculated the time. Xia Wen and Zhong Lin were about to arrive at the Cleaving Mountain with 50,000 soldiers. Therefore, he flew to the mountain guarding formation at the foot of the mountain and started to break the formation. The Cleaving Mountain was in chaos. Tens of thousands of demon soldiers were scared out of their wits. No one came to stop him. Another 100 breaths passed. He broke the holy level formation and made several holes in the defensive light shield. Finally, Xia Wen and Zhong Lin arrived with 50,000 soldiers. Ji Tianqing was hiding in the night sky. He used his soul to communicate with Xia Wen, Zhong Lin and the 10 commanders. Soon, the 2 generals led the 50,000 soldiers through the 5 openings and into the mountain guarding formation. Originally, the soldiers were apprehensive and they feared the Cleaving Mountain from the bottom of their hearts. But when they saw that the Cleaving Mountain was in a mess, fire was everywhere, and the demons were running away in panic, their morale was immediately boosted. Xia Wen and Zhong Lin were filled with excitement as they led the 50,000 soldiers to kill the enemy from the foot of the mountain all the way to the peak. Normally, the demons were ferocious and valiant, and they were the least afraid of close combat. But tonight was different. More than 60,000 demon soldiers were in chaos, making it very difficult for them to organize an effective counterattack. Unexpectedly, they couldn't withstand the attacks of the human warriors, and were forced to retreat step by step, constantly retreating to the mountaintop. Ji Tianqing continued to cast spells in the dark, constantly bombarding the devil experts, causing the devil soldiers to be attacked from the front and rear. Falling into a desperate situation, many of the demon generals despaired. Knowing that they would not be able to escape death tonight, they resolved to die and led their remaining soldiers in a counterattack. They didn't hope to defeat the human soldiers. They just wanted to buy some time and wait for reinforcements to arrive. After all, they had already sent out a request for reinforcements. The army camp behind the Cleaving Mountain also sent out a large number of devil soldiers, and they were rushing over with the fastest speed to provide reinforcements. At the same time, Ji Tianqing also sent out a message inscribed Jade Slip back to Heavenly Lion Pass. The content of the message inscribed Jade Slip was a military order. He ordered the 200,000 fully equipped soldiers to rush to the Cleaving Mountain with the fastest speed to fight the devil army. In reality, before Ji Tianqing set out, he already had a detailed plan. He personally killed his way to the Cleaving Mountain, assassinated the 4 great demon monarchs, and destroyed the Saint-level mountain protecting formation. Xia Wen and Zhong Lin led the 50,000 soldiers to follow closely behind and launch a raid, and they would be able to capture the Cleaving Mountain in one fell swoop. But Ji Tianqing knew that the devil army camp behind the Cleaving Mountain would definitely send out reinforcements in the shortest amount of time. Therefore, he left a backup plan before he set out. He secretly gathered the 200,000 soldiers prepared the army for war, and was ready to reinforce at any time. Now everything was developing according to Ji Tianqing's plan. The time was finally ripe. Kill. Kill all the devils, don't leave a single one alive. Tonight, we must capture the Cleaving mountain. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin, the two generals, led the soldiers to kill the enemy bravely, and their morale rose higher and higher. The shouts and roars of the two armies, the crisp sounds of weapons clashing, and the explosions of secret techniques reverberated on the Cleaving mountain endlessly. After a short 15 minutes, the human soldiers captured the Cleaving mountain. After this battle, the 80,000 devil soldiers were all slaughtered, and only a few thousand escaped from the Cleaving mountain. Such a result was very rare, and it was a complete victory. Ji Tianqing alone killed more than 20,000 devils, including 4 great demon monarchs, 12 demon generals, and dozens of commanders. Such a battle record could be said to be shocking, and his military exploits were splendid. All the human soldiers who participated in this battle were in awe of Ji Tianqing, and they admired him very much. Of course, the human soldiers also suffered casualties. More than 8,000 people died in the battle, more than 7,000 were injured, and only 30,000 people could still fight. Ji Tianqing decisively ordered the 30,000 soldiers to defend the Cleaving mountain, and at the same time, he sent people to take care of the wounded. Just as the soldiers got into the defensive formation, a deafening battle cry came from the foot of the Cleaving mountain. A mighty blood-red flood arrived at the foot of the mountain with a strong murderous intent. That was the army camp behind the Cleaving mountain. It was the vanguard army sent to support, and there were more than 100,000 of them. The leader was a demon monarch, and there were more than a dozen strong warriors of the Zhenqi realm under his command. The army came aggressively, and they rushed up the Cleaving mountain without caring about anything else. Soon, they crossed the protective formation of the mountain. The protective formation of the mountain would stop the alien races, but it was useless against the devils, and they could go in and out freely. Therefore, the army of 100,000 devils quickly climbed up the Cleaving mountain. When the human race soldiers guarding the mountain peak saw the demon race soldiers swarming in from all directions, they were immediately filled with worry and despair. They had just won the battle and captured the Cleaving mountain. However, the devil army came to support them, and they would be wiped out soon. Just as the soldiers were panicking, Ji Tianqing appeared. He turned into a golden giant hundreds of feet tall, and like a god of war, he rushed towards the devil army with a huge black sword. At the same time, a few huge creatures appeared behind him. Chirp! A huge strange fish that was thousands of feet long and covered in ice blue gave out a strange chirp. It flapped its wide wings, opened its bloody mouth, and spat out a monstrous icy blue flame towards the demon race army. After the menacing devil race army was enveloped by the icy blue flowing fire, they were immediately burned to ashes without leaving any bones behind. In the blink of an eye, more than 2,000 devil soldiers were killed. Roar! Suddenly, a huge black monster rushed out from the steep hillside. It opened its huge mouth and spat out golden flames, incinerating thousands of demon race soldiers. It swung its tail, and 10 miles of land collapsed, burying thousands of devils. Chapter 2079. In addition to the blue koan and the Xitigarbha divine armor, there was also an ancient tree that was thousands of feet tall behind Ji Tianqing. The ancient tree took root in the ground and stretched out 100,000 thick and strong branches, crazily whipping the demon soldiers. It was ancestor Sanju. It had already passed the heavenly tribulation and reached the first level of the tribulation transcendence realm. This was despite the fact that it was not very powerful. It was more than enough to deal with ordinary demon soldiers. Moreover, it took root in the ground and used 100,000 branches to attack. It released an overwhelming attack like a huge city wall. Even if the demon soldiers rushed over like a tide, they would not be able to break through its defense for a while. It became the second obstacle for the demon army, firmly guarding the human soldiers on the mountain peak. The first obstacle was naturally Ji Tianqing and the two giant beasts. They were like tigers in a flock of sheep, rampaging through the demon army and slaughtering wantonly. Seeing Ji Tianqing so tyrannical, The leading demon monarch hurriedly brought the 10 blood gods' illusions to attack. The strength of the 10 blood gods' illusions was not ordinary. They had all reached the first and second level of the tribulation transcendence realm. The uniqueness of the blood gods' illusions made them invincible existences on the battlefield, and the most terrifying nightmare of the human soldiers. They had a near-immortal body and could release all kinds of plagues, disasters, and poisons. They could slaughter human soldiers on a large scale. A blood god's illusions at the second level of the tribulation transcendence realm were more lethal than a human martial monarch. The demon monarch led the 10 blood gods' illusions and surrounded Ji Tianxing without any explanation, and launched a fierce attack. Not only did Ji Tianxing not panic, he even laughed loudly and said a few good words. The demon monarch was baffled. He did not know why he had such a reaction. However, he soon understood that he had encountered an incomparably terrifying monster. Ji Tianxing held the Burial of Heaven sword in his right hand, and the 5-colored divine lightning in his left hand. He charged into the battle formation in an invincible manner, and quickly killed 3 blood gods' illusions. The blood gods' illusions were proud of their undying bodies, but under the bombardment of the 5-colored divine lightning, they were as fragile as paper. Ji Tianxing used the power of thunder to destroy blood god's sun. He then released a sacred white light that immediately devoured blood god's sun. In just 20 breaths of time, he had killed 5 blood gods' illusions. The remaining blood gods' clones were terrified. The demon monarch was also shocked and quickly retreated with the blood gods' clones. Unfortunately, escaping was destined to be an extravagant hope. Ji Tianxing chased after them and quickly killed the remaining 5 blood gods. The demon lord was chased to the foot of the mountain and instantly killed by Ji Tianxing in 2 moves. The death of the general and the blood god's son greatly damaged the morale of the demon army. At this time, the 10 human commanders took out the talismans that Ji Tianxing had given them. At the same time, they took out a dark golden thunder talisman and threw it at the demon army. Instantly, each heavenly thunder talisman turned into dazzling lightning, condensing into several heavenly thunders that were thousands of feet tall. Boom! Boom! Deafening claps of thunder suddenly exploded in the night sky, spreading for thousands of miles. Dozens of lightning pillars blossomed with dazzling lightning at the same time, making the night sky beautiful and colorful. However, the dazzling heavenly thunder's destructive power was also terrifying. At least 20,000 demon soldiers were obliterated on the spot, reduced to pitch-black ash. More than half of the Cleaving mountain was also destroyed, turning into ruins full of ravines. Such terrifying power made the demon army tremble in fear. Many people hesitated and did not dare to charge forward. Many demon generals also had different opinions. They even quarreled about whether to attack or retreat. Ji Tianxing took the blue koan and the Xitigarbha divine armor to kill the demon soldiers. The situation became more chaotic. The demon soldiers were constantly injured, and their numbers were sharply decreasing. The 30,000 human soldiers on the mountain peak were also motivated to fight. They actually blocked the demon army's attack. The 2 sides fought fiercely. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Light and shadows filled the sky. The loud sounds did not disappear for a long time. Half an hour later, more than half of the 100,000 demon army was slaughtered. Only 30,000 remained. These demon army lost their fighting spirit. They all turned and fled down the mountain. More than 10,000 of the 30,000 human soldiers also died. However, they won again and defended the Cleaving mountain. Taking advantage of the demon army's defeat, the human soldiers stayed on the mountain peak and quickly treated their wounds and recuperated. An hour later, the second devil race army arrived. This time, the demon army's numbers reached 150,000. The majority of the demon army climbed up the Cleaving mountain and rushed to the mountain peak like a black tide. There were also a small number of demon army experts that attacked directly from the night sky and killed the human soldiers on the mountain peak. Blue koan blocked the demon army experts in the night sky. The Xitigarbha divine armor and forefather Sanju blocked the demon army on the ground. Ji Tianxing controlled the situation. He held the Burial of Heaven sword and started a massacre. Xie Wen and Zhonglin also fought bravely. They swore to resist the charge of the demon army to the death. The 10 commanders also used the talismans that Ji Tianqing gave them. Those were red talismans that flew into the night sky and burned. They immediately became outer heavenly jewel fire that covered the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The dark red and dazzling heavenly jewel fire poured down from the sky. Like 10 enormous jewel fire waterfalls, they drowned the demon army. Instantly, the demon army suffered heavy casualties. Countless demon army soldiers were burned by the jewel fire. They let out heart-wrenching screams, rolling and crying in the sea of fire. One after another, pitch-black corpses fell in the sea of fire and were burned to ash. In a few breaths, more than 20,000 demon army soldiers died in the outer heavenly jewel fire. The demon army soldiers were even more sorrowful. The morale of the human soldiers was high. This battle was very tragic. Every moment, hundreds of thousands of people died. Their corpses turned into minced meat that scattered on the cold mountain peak. Crimson human blood and purple and black demon blood mixed together and formed a small stream. For 45 minutes, the demon army was unable to reach the peak of the mountain. Instead, they lost more than 40,000 soldiers. Ji Tianqing took credit for himself. He personally killed the leading general, more than a dozen demon generals, and a few blood god sons. Because of this, the human soldiers were able to defend the peak of the mountain. They only sacrificed more than 8,000 people. It seemed that the battle was about to come to an end. The 30,000 demon army soldiers who were lucky enough to survive had lost the protection of their general and powerhouses. They could only retreat and defeat. The 20,000 human soldiers on the peak of the mountain also heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, there was another roar at the foot of the mountain. The light of Dharma power lit up the sky. However, it was not the demon army. It was the reinforcements from the Sky Lion Pass. A total of 200,000 reinforcements were divided into two groups. One group of reinforcements surrounded the 30,000 demon army soldiers who fled in defeat. The other group of reinforcements crossed the Cleaving mountain and killed their way to the army camp behind. Seeing this, the human warriors who were trapped on the mountaintop all burst into exclamations and cheers in surprise and excitement. They could not believe that a large number of reinforcements had arrived so quickly. Chapter 2080. Seeing the 200,000 reinforcements, Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were also stunned. The two of them looked at each other with puzzled expressions. What's going on? Why did Sky Lion Pass send reinforcements? Commander Ji only asked us to gather 50,000 soldiers. Why are there 200,000 reinforcements here? Those 200,000 reinforcements are the subordinates of General Li and General Wang. They are the trusted subordinates of the right deputy commander. Could it be that they received the news and came here to help after seeing the battle at Cleaving Mountain? That's impossible. Without the commander's order, who dares to lead the troops out of the pass? Not to mention attacking the most dangerous Cleaving Mountain? That's right. Even if they saw the battle and hurriedly gathered the troops here, they can't be so fast. There's only one possibility. Commander Ji has already arranged for them to gather the troops and wait for reinforcements at Cleaving Mountain. Oh my God! Marshal Ji's foresight is godly. Did you already foresee this outcome? Xie Wen and Zhong Lin discussed for a while and finally came to a conclusion. The two were dumbfounded. Their hearts were filled with astonishment and disbelief. When they looked at Ji Tianqing's back, their hearts were filled with reverence, and their eyes were filled with worship. As expected of the god of killing in white, who can fight against millions of troops with one sword. Not only is his combat power outstanding, but he can also predict the enemy's moves. He's simply the best commander in the world. With Commander Ji guarding Sky Lion Pass and assisting Lord Holy Emperor, why should we worry about not winning? From this moment on, Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were conquered by Ji Tianqing's tactics. A commander who was terrifyingly powerful and could command troops like a god was definitely an invincible god of war. Following such a commander, why should they worry about not being able to make a name for themselves? The facts proved that every change in the battle was under Ji Tianqing's control. The 100,000 reinforcements quickly annihilated the demon army at the foot of the mountain. Then they passed through Cleaving Mountain and rushed to the demon camp at the back. The 20,000 soldiers guarding Cleaving Mountain hurriedly strengthened the defense and recuperated. Ji Tianqing didn't stop. He brought Lan Kuan, Xidagarba godly armor and old ancestor Sanju to the demon camp at the back of the mountain. Originally, there were 400,000 demon soldiers stationed in the demon camp. Previously, the demon camp sent out 250,000 soldiers to reinforce the Cleaving Mountain, but they all returned in defeat. Only 30,000 of them managed to escape back to the demon camp. The demon camp was shaken from top to bottom, and many of the generals were furious. Before they could regroup, Ji Tianqing arrived with 200,000 soldiers. He was still like a peerless god of death, unleashing his all-encompassing methods, blasting the devil race's main camp into disarray. The two divine beasts and old ancestor Sanju followed Ji Tianqing and charged bravely, slaughtering batch after batch of devil warriors. The demon race was utterly defeated, their morale plummeting to the extreme. With the prestige of victory, the human army naturally had high morale and marched forward with indomitable will. Ji Tianqing was leading the way, specifically killing the generals, blood god sons, and experts of the demon race. He was simply killing anyone who stood in his way. No one was a match for him. This bitter decisive battle quickly became a one-sided massacre. When Ji Tianqing and the two divine beasts killed all of the generals and experts of the demon race's main camp, the demon race's main camp was breached. The battle lasted for 2 hours, and then it was declared to be over. The 180,000 demon race's main army was almost completely annihilated, and only 10,000 or so people fled in all directions. On the side of the human army, only 20,000 or so people died, and 30,000 or so were injured. At this point, the human army had won a great victory, and successfully occupied the Cleaving Mountain. After the battle, the various commanders brought their soldiers to clean up the battlefield and treat the wounded. The 4 generals hurriedly rushed in front of Ji Tianqing, and excitedly reported the results of the battle. Ji Tianqing had already put away the 2 divine beasts and old ancestor Sanju, and let them rest in the sword world. He stood proudly on the Cleaving Mountain, listening to the 4 generals report the news. After listening, he showed a gratified smile and nodded. Tonight, Bin Shuai mobilized a total of 250,000 soldiers to attack the Cleaving Mountain. Although it was a risky move, it was beyond everyone's expectations, and achieved great results. Our army only lost 50,000 people, and 40,000 or so were injured, but we annihilated more than 400,000 demon race's main army, and successfully occupied the Cleaving Mountain. Such outstanding battle results and meritorious service will definitely spread throughout the northern battlefield, and greatly increase the morale of our army. You guys are very sensible, and very cooperative with Bin Shuai's actions. Bin Shuai will definitely reward you according to your merits, and put you in important positions. Ji Tianqing was very satisfied with the results of the battle, but he did not claim the credit, and even expressed that he would put the 4 generals in important positions. The 4 generals immediately had complicated feelings, and were filled with gratitude and joy, and bowed one after another. Many thanks for General Ji's appreciation and praise. This general will definitely be loyal to his duty, and follow your orders, Zhong Lin said with a sincere tone. Xie Wen cupped his fists and bowed, and said in a sonorous tone, General Ji has contributed greatly to this great victory. This general and the others do not dare to take the credit. If you did not sneak into the Cleaving Mountain first, kill the 4 demon kings, and kill many demon generals and blood god sons, we would not be able to win. If General Ji did not use the army like a god, and take every possibility into account, tonight would not have gone so smoothly. General Li's face was full of smiles, and he said with a flushed face, General Ji's martial prowess is extraordinary, and you use the army like a god. This is simply rare in this world. This general is completely convinced. General Ji, please do not worry from now on. This general will follow your lead, and will do his best to be loyal to you. General Wang hesitated for a moment, and then said with a face full of shame, I am ashamed to say this, but General Ji secretly ordered this general to gather 100,000 soldiers and prepare to attack the Cleaving Mountain at any time. At that time, this general was still very hesitant, and thought that we would not be able to return tonight, and that we might die on the battlefield. But after seeing General Ji's strength and methods, I had a trace of hope and fantasy in my heart, so I chose to take the risk. Unexpectedly, this general made the right bet. General Ji's strength, ability, courage, and courage have all made this old man admire you greatly. This old man is willing to follow General Ji. The reactions of the four generals were all within Ji Tianxing's expectations. He only listened with a face full of smiles, and did not say anything more. After the four generals finished speaking, he then said with a confident tone, "The four generals are willing to believe in Ben Shui, and that is why there will be tonight's great victory. However, Ben Shui has already said that taking down the Cleaving mountain is only the beginning, and it is only used to raise the morale of the soldiers. Are you satisfied with this little bit of victory and military merit? Follow Ben Shui, and do your job well. Ben Shui will let you see what it means to be victorious in every battle, and to be invincible." The four generals were all infected by Ji Tianxing's aura, and their blood was boiling. Their hearts were filled with excitement and expectation. "General Ji, please do not worry, this general will be loyal to you until death. It is this general's honor to follow General Ji into battle." The four of them cupped their fists and bowed at the same time, and their attitude became more humble and respectful. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and ordered, "General Wang and General Li, stay here and lead 100,000 soldiers to guard the Cleaving mountain. Xia Wen and Zhong Lin, lead the rest of the soldiers and follow Ben Shui back to the Sky Lion Pass." Chapter 2081. Resolving the demon race's chaos at the northern battlefront, and saving the Luo River God Nation's fate, was something Ji Tianxing had to do. It was to repay the kindness of the Luo River God Nation, and also to weaken the North Underworld Mountain. It was also to make preparations to eliminate the ancestor demon god in the future. Ji Tianxing already had a plan in mind, which was why it went so smoothly and created such amazing miracles and military exploits. Sky Lion Pass could not take down the Cleaving mountain after a long time, and did not even dare to attack it again. However, he took it down in one night. Not only did he take down the Cleaving mountain, he also wiped out more than 400,000 demon race soldiers with minimal casualties. This news quickly spread back to the Sky Lion Pass, causing the 3 million soldiers to be shocked and in disbelief. However, this was an undeniable fact and no one could doubt it. While the millions of soldiers were shocked, they also admired and praised Ji Tianxing's military tactics and ability. No one expected that he would give the Sky Lion Pass such a big gift on the night he took over as the deputy commander. It was too shocking and it raised the morale of the soldiers. The entire Sky Lion Pass was filled with jubilation, and was bustling with noise and excitement. The soldiers' blood was boiling and they were full of ambition. They all wanted to rush to the battlefield immediately and achieve their goals. Especially after Ji Tianxing returned to the Sky Lion Pass, he rewarded the meritorious officials with great fanfare, and compensated the soldiers who were injured or killed. This move attracted the hearts of the people, stimulating the blood of those soldiers with lofty aspirations, and making them wish they could immediately join him. It was the good fortune of the 3 million soldiers to have such a powerful and godlike commander. Previously, many soldiers found it hard to accept his rude and domineering behavior when he chased Yufu away, and they talked about him behind his back. However, after the Battle of the Cleaving Mountain, those soldiers who were neutral immediately respected and revered him. Even those soldiers who talked about him behind his back obediently shut their mouths. They could not help but admire him in their hearts. To the soldiers who had died on the battlefield, only powerful martial strength and iron-forged military achievements were the most convincing. Now Ji Tianxing did it. Moreover, it was beyond everyone's expectations. Who dared to not submit to him? Many hot-blooded and warlike soldiers even felt that they had finally made it. Finally, they didn't have to hide in the Heavenly Lion Pass anymore. They finally had a chance to kill their way out of the pass and slaughter the demon race. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers who returned in triumph praised Ji Tianxing to the heavens, and worshipped him as a god. When he talked about the great battle that night, he was full of pride and glory. The soldiers guarding the Heavenly Lion Pass were naturally envious and jealous. They wished that they could personally participate in the battle and enjoy this glory. For the next 2 days, the Heavenly Lion Pass was not peaceful. Millions of officers and soldiers were filled with anticipation and were ready to set out at any time. They all wanted to follow Ji Tianxing to victory and also wanted to witness his invincible demeanor with their own eyes. Ji Tianxing was not idle either. He made bold and decisive changes, adjusting the positions and ranks of the generals. The loyal and trusted generals that Yu Fu had left behind were all demoted to idle positions without any real power. Those generals who were willing to obey his orders and serve him with their lives would be promoted and placed in important positions. They would be given real power. The 4 people who benefited the most were of course Xie Wen, Zhong Lin, General Li and General Wang. They became the most favored generals under his command. This way of doing things was undoubtedly a signal. The current Heavenly Lion Pass was completely under Ji Tianxing's control. It had become his sole say. Whoever dared to disobey his orders and go against him would not have a good ending. Only those who were loyal to him and worked hard for him would have a chance to be put in important positions. Many generals who were talented but had different ideas from Yu Fu's had waited for the day to come and saw the opportunity to make a name for themselves. However, there were also a few narrow-minded people who talked about Ji Tianxing behind his back. They said that he eliminated those who disagreed with him, and that he was arbitrary and domineering. Ji Tianxing did not care about these rumors at all. He was too lazy to pay attention to them. This was because he had his own things to do. He had a set goal that he had yet to complete. He had no time to waste. Inside White Mountain City, in a magnificent palace, in a quaint and elegant study room, Lu Baishuang was sitting in front of a table, seriously reviewing memorials and handling the affairs of the Empire of White Frost. Since leaving Heavenly Lion Pass and coming to White Mountain City, she had been busy for 2 days and 2 nights. She had not slept a wink. The Empire of White Frost was the latest to be established among the various empires. Its foundation was also the most shallow. It could not withstand too many twists and turns. Now that the demon army was pressing on the border of the Empire of White Frost, how could she be at ease? Under internal and external troubles, she worked day and night. She could not split herself up and was physically and mentally exhausted. Suddenly, a maid walked quickly into the study room and bowed respectfully in front of her. Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, there is an urgent military report. Hearing this, Lu Baishuang immediately put down the memorials and asked with a serious expression, "What happened? Did something happen in Heavenly Lion Pass?" The maid did not dare to hide anything. She could only lower her head and report truthfully. Lord Saint Emperor is wise. That is exactly what happened. Just last night, Deputy General Ji Tianxing secretly gathered 50,000 soldiers led by Generals Xie Wen and Zhong Lin. They rushed 800 miles to attack Cleaving Mountain outside the pass. Suddenly hearing this news, Lu Baishuang immediately frowned, and his eyes flashed with anger. Damn it! As expected, he is the one causing trouble. I had guessed it long ago. He deliberately angered me so that he could stir up trouble. But I did not expect that he would be so impatient. He launched an attack on the night he took over as Deputy General. Moreover, he only brought 50,000 soldiers to attack Cleaving Mountain, which is the most dangerous place. Isn't this nonsense? Lu Baishuang was so angry that her face turned pale. She slammed her palm on the table. She stood up and ordered coldly, "This Ji Tianxing is too unreliable. He is simply arrogant and ignorant. No, I have to rush back to Heavenly Lion Pass immediately. I have to watch over him personally to prevent him from making an irreversible mistake." In Lu Baishuang's view, Ji Tianxing only brought 50,000 soldiers to die. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. But the maid's next words made her eyes go dark. Lord Saint Emperor, Deputy General Ji brought 50,000 soldiers to Cleaving Mountain and launched an attack at night. He also secretly ordered General Li and General Wang to gather 200,000 troops and follow closely behind to reinforce Cleaving Mountain. What? Lu Baishuang's eyes widened again. She cursed even more angrily. Damn bastard. It's not enough that he killed 50,000 soldiers. He even wants 200,000 soldiers to die. Cleaving Mountain is easy to defend and hard to attack. It is also the outpost of the demon camp. There are 400,000 demon soldiers stationed behind the mountain. If 200,000 soldiers go there, it will be no different from sending lambs to the tiger's mouth. Lu Baishuang could not sit still anymore. She immediately wanted to return to Heavenly Lion Pass. But the maid continued, "Lord Saint Emperor, please do not be impatient. What this subordinate has just said is all Lord Ji's arrangements. Now our army has won a great victory. Cleaving Mountain has already been captured by Lord Ji." Chapter 2082. Lu Baishuang was stunned for a few seconds before she slowly came back to her senses. Even so, she still couldn't accept this result. Her face was full of disbelief. "You just said that he led 250,000 soldiers to attack Cleaving Mountain at night and won?" Lu Baishuang stared at the maid and asked in a low and slow voice. The maid didn't understand, but she quickly nodded and said with a smile, "Lord Saint Emperor, that's right. Lord Ji really took down the Cleaving Mountain and killed more than 400,000 devil soldiers. Now the whole Sky Lion Pass is boiling. 3 million soldiers are talking about Lord Ji's strength and ability. All the soldiers are praising him for predicting the enemy's moves and using troops like a god. He's simply the reincarnation of the god of war." Lu Baishuang finally recovered, but she couldn't help but shake her head and say, "How is this possible? He only brought 250,000 soldiers, but he was able to take down Cleaving Mountain and kill more than 400,000 demons? No matter what, this news sounds like a heavenly book. How can people believe it?" The maid didn't know the situation well enough, so she didn't dare to say anything. She could only explain, "Lord Saint Emperor, I don't know the details and can't help you. But you can send a message and ask the generals guarding Sky Lion Pass. You will know if it's true or not." Lu Baishuang gradually woke up from the shock and said angrily, "Xiewen and Zhonglin, those two bastards. I arranged them to be Ji Tianqing's deputies. Before I left, I told them that if Ji Tianqing had any strange movements, they should immediately inform me. It's already been 2 days, but they only reported it now?" Seeing that Lu Baishuang was angry, the maid quickly bowed and said, "Lord Saint Emperor, please calm down. The 2 generals can't be blamed for this matter. After all, this was Lord Ji's order. Lord Ji said that taking down Cleaving Mountain is only the first step. He has more important things that he hasn't done yet. Before reaching the goal, this news must be kept secret." Lu Baishuang finally calmed down, but when she heard this sentence, her heart tightened again. What kind of tricks is that brat playing?" "I don't know." The maidservant bowed and left respectfully. Lu Baishuang was left alone in the study room. He frowned and thought to himself, "No, since I said that I would trust him, I should show an attitude of trust. Plus, he had already created a miracle and conquered the Cleaving Mountain. The more crucial it is, the more this emperor cannot return to Heavenly Lion Pass. Otherwise he will bear a grudge against me. Not only can I not blame him for acting rashly, but I also have to pass a decree praising him for his ability to command troops and his outstanding achievements." Lu Baishuang's mood was very complicated. He was shocked and puzzled at the same time. He was a little angry, but he also felt fortunate. She hesitated for a long time before she made up her mind and sent a message to Ji Tianqing. After sending the communication jade slip, she patiently waited for Ji Tianqing's reply. In her mind, she had already let bygones be bygones and was no longer angry with Ji Tianqing. As a man, Ji Tianqing would definitely put aside his previous prejudice and reply to her message. Moreover, she was the commander-in-chief of the Empire of White Frost, and Ji Tianqing was her deputy commander-in-chief, her subordinate. It was reasonable for her to send a message to report the news. However, Lu Baishuang miscalculated again. She waited for a whole day and night, but she did not receive any reply from Ji Tianqing. Until the second night, she paced back and forth in the study for a long time. Finally, she could not hold back the anger in her heart. "Damn you, you don't even have the slightest bit of magnanimity. You don't even reply to my message? I have already given you a way out, but you are not willing to back down. You even want to embarrass me? Humph. This emperor wants to see just how arrogant you are. Lu Baishuang muttered angrily. She took out another communication jade slip and prepared to send a message to Ji Tianqing. However, at this moment, another maid walked into the study. She cupped her hands and reported. Reporting to the Holy Emperor, there is news from Heavenly Lion Pass. Deputy Commander-in-Chief Ji has just gathered 200,000 troops and charged out of Heavenly Lion Pass at night to attack Luoying Valley. What? Lu Baishuang was stunned. She crushed the communication jade slip in her hand. Her eyes were filled with shock. Damn bastard. He actually went to attack Luoying Valley again? That is the gate of the Devil Race's camp. It is the most heavily guarded area. Once he passes through Luoying Valley, there is a plain 8,000 miles behind him. There are millions of Devil Race troops stationed there. Even I do not dare to attack Luoying Valley with my troops. How dare he be so arrogant? The defense of Luoying Valley is stronger than Shifeng Mountain. There are more than twice as many troops stationed there. How dare he be so careless? Lu Baishuang's heart was burning with worry. She immediately wanted to send a message to Ji Tianqing to immediately return to Heavenly Lion Pass. However, the maid continued to report. Holy Emperor, this message was secretly sent by the general guarding Heavenly Lion Pass. Deputy Commander-in-Chief Ji has been hiding it. He did not intend to report it to you at all. Lu Baishuang was so angry that her pretty face turned pale. She angrily slammed the table and shouted coldly, "Bastard! I am the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. How dare he hide it from me and act on his own? This is too ridiculous. Even if he had just won a battle, he would not dare to advance so rashly. This is simply sending 200,000 soldiers to their deaths. He is too crazy. No, I cannot let him continue to fool around. I must return to Heavenly Lion Pass to take charge." As she spoke, Lu Baishuang straightened her skirt and was about to walk out of the door. The maid hurriedly stopped her and explained, "Holy Emperor, please calm down." When General Xia Wen and General Zhonglin sent this message, they specifically said that Ji Tianqing has planned this well. With Lord Ji's meticulous planning, there will definitely be a pleasant surprise. Holy Emperor, please do not make a fuss and do not stop Ji Tianqing's decision. Otherwise, Ji Tianqing will leave Heavenly Lion Pass and join the other Commander-in-Chief's command. Lu Baishuang immediately stopped in her tracks. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Haha, I am the Commander-in-Chief. Do I have no right to interfere with the Deputy Commander-in-Chief's plan? Damn Ji Tianqing. He is so arrogant. He does not put me in his eyes at all. He has gone too far. No matter if he succeeds or fails tonight, I will not let him off easily. After a long time, Lu Baishuang's anger dissipated. She waved her hand and dismissed the maid. She walked out of the study alone and quietly left White Mountain City. Even if Ji Tianqing was dissatisfied and even teased her again, she could not care less. She only wanted to return to Heavenly Lion Pass and personally monitor Ji Tianqing. She would not let him do such a crazy thing again. However, it would take her at least 12 hours to rush back to Heavenly Lion Pass from White Mountain City. By the time she reached Heavenly Lion Pass, the sky would be bright. At that time, the battle would be over and everything would be settled. Lu Baishuang prayed in her heart as she hurried back. Ji Tianqing, Ji Tianqing. Although you are despicable, you are still a rare talent. It is just that you are too arrogant. You have to suffer some losses to learn your lesson. Chapter 2083. When Lu Baishuang arrived at Sky Lion Pass, it was already early in the morning. The sun rose from the east, and a thin mist and frost shrouded the pass. The world was cold and clear. After arriving at Sky Lion Pass, she had just landed on the peak of the mountain on the west side. She didn't have time to ask a general about the situation. All of a sudden, she saw a dazzling golden light coming from 100 miles away from the pass. The golden light was as fast as lightning. After a few breaths, it crossed the distance of 100 miles and arrived above Sky Lion Pass. Swoosh! The golden light landed on the peak of the mountain on the west side, on a square not far from Lu Baishuang. After the golden light faded, a handsome and tall figure appeared. It was a handsome young man in a white robe with long hair draped over his shoulders. His face was handsome and resolute, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His whole body exuded a mysterious and noble aura, as if he was connected to heaven and earth. His white robe was tattered in many places and stained with blood. The blood had already dried and turned dark red, making him look particularly miserable. There was no doubt that he must have experienced a fierce and bloody battle. He held a black sword in his hand and stood there with a dignified appearance, looking around with sharp eyes. His expression and aura were very calm, but when he suddenly glanced at Lu Baishuang not far away, he couldn't help but be startled and frowned slightly. Then his face became pale, and his breathing became a little chaotic. His expression was also full of fatigue. He staggered and walked straight to Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang saw his appearance and her heart suddenly tightened. She quickly went to greet him. Ji Tianxing, why did you come back alone? Lu Baishuang rushed to him and stretched out her hands to support him. She asked anxiously, how was the battle last night? Where are the other generals and soldiers? Why didn't they come back with you? Ji Tianxing looked weak and powerless. He held Lu Baishuang's wrist tightly with both of his hands. His voice was hoarse and dry as he said with a bitter smile, my life was at stake. I could only run away. Ben Shuai was lucky to escape alive. After all, I am a rare genius. How could I die on the battlefield? That would be the loss of the human race. Lu Baishuang frowned when he heard this, and in his heart, he cursed this narcissist. However, seeing that the situation was urgent, she didn't want to argue with Ji Tianxing. She asked anxiously, Ji Tianxing, speak clearly, what exactly happened? Why did you come back alone? Could it be that our army suffered a crushing defeat in the Battle of Luoying Valley? Ji Tianxing looked at her with dim eyes and nodded weakly. Seeing his reaction, Lu Baishuang felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His eyes filled with disappointment. As expected, I didn't guess wrongly. Ji Tianxing, you are arrogant and reckless. You actually brought 200,000 soldiers to attack Luoying Valley. This was a taboo in the army. It was stupid to the extreme. Now 200,000 soldiers had died in battle. Who knew how many of them would be able to escape? As the deputy commander, not only did you not defend to the end, you even fled back to the Heavenly Lion Pass. Ji Tianxing, you have really disappointed me. Lu Baishuang glared at Ji Tianxing, pointed at his nose and scolded. You won the battle earlier. In your arrogance, you rashly attacked Luoying Valley, causing the army to suffer a crushing defeat. I am magnanimous and can forgive your recklessness. I won't pursue your mistakes. However, as the commander of an army, how could you ignore your soldiers and escape alone? This is simply too shameful. No general should make such a stupid mistake. Ji Tianxing was scolded harshly by her, but he wasn't angry. With an indifferent expression, he waved his hand and said, Lu Baishuang, don't be so angry. Victory and defeat are common in war. It's not a big deal that 200,000 soldiers died. Isn't Ben Shuai still alive? Don't you still have over 2,700,000 soldiers? When Ben Shuai recovers from his injuries, he will lead the army again. He will definitely destroy the demon camp in one fell swoop and wipe out the million demon army. Ji Tianxing patted his chest confidently, as if he was making a solemn vow. However, when Lu Baishuang saw his attitude, she was even more disappointed and angry. She scolded, Ji Tianxing, you bastard, when are you going to wake up? Can't you restrain yourself a little? Don't be so lawless, arrogant and conceited, okay? We are dealing with the demon race. They are the most terrifying race on the continent. Can't you be a little more careful? You have already made such a big mistake. The entire army will blame you. However, I will help you suppress this matter and let you recover in peace. I will not allow the soldiers to criticize you. Don't say any more. Quickly go back and recover. I will personally take care of the following matters. Ji Tianxing looked at her in a daze, his eyes filled with emotion. He was silent for a long time before he suddenly said something. Lu Baishuang, on the surface, you are fiercely scolding me, but in fact, you can't bear to see me suffer. Even if I made a big mistake, you are still so tolerant of me, and even help me deal with the future. I am now more and more convinced that it is my elegant demeanor and charm that has conquered your heart. Pooh. Lu Baishuang was already angry. Suddenly hearing Ji Tianqing talk nonsense, she was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Bastard! You shut up for me. Lu Baishuang angrily glared at him, pointing to the palace not far away, and scolded. You narcissist, go back and recover. I don't want to see you again. Ji Tianqing was still looking at her with a smile on his face. He sighed with emotion and said, Look, your every word and action has revealed your true feelings. You are so angry that you almost vomited blood. But you are not willing to hurt me. You even urged me to recover. This is such a deep and reserved love. Lu Baishuang was trembling with anger. She glared at him coldly and shouted, Get out now. Immediately. Immediately. Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. Yes, I have to recover as soon as possible, so you don't have to worry about me. Lu Baishuang was no longer willing to listen to him. She reached out and grabbed him by the collar, throwing him to the palace 1,000 feet away. Swish. A golden light wrapped around Ji Tianqing, flew across the sky 1,000 feet away, and landed in the palace. Lu Baishuang stood in the same place, still angry. It was obvious that her anger had not subsided. Not long after, a bell suddenly sounded at the edge of the square, and many scouts flew into the sky, shouting themselves hoarse. Victory! Victory! Last night, we won a great victory in Luoying Valley. Shouts resounded through the sky, and soon spread throughout Heavenly Lion Pass. The million soldiers were excited, and all of them cheered excitedly, talking enthusiastically. Lu Baishuang was stunned in the square, and her face was full of confusion. She turned her head to look at the outside of the pass and saw a majestic troop, bringing along billowing clouds of dust as they dashed towards her. It was an army of more than 100,000 people. They were dressed like human soldiers, and the flag they held was also the flag of the Baishuang Empire. Suddenly seeing this scene, Lu Baishuang's body suddenly stiffened. Chapter 2084. Obviously, Lu Baishuang had been tricked by Ji Tianqing again. Ever since she received news that Ji Tianqing had led troops to attack Luoying Valley, she was sure that Ji Tianqing would be defeated. She rushed back to Heavenly Lion Pass anxiously, and saw that Ji Tianqing had returned alone, his whole body covered in blood. Her preconceived notion made her even more certain that Ji Tianqing had been defeated and had returned. In addition, Ji Tianqing's face was pale and his breathing was weak, as if he had been seriously injured. Lu Baishuang no longer had any doubts. She was heartbroken but could not bear to be too harsh on him. But in the end, she had been tricked. In the Battle of Luoying Valley last night, Ji Tianqing had won a complete victory. Lu Baishuang immediately understood that Ji Tianqing's weak and injured appearance was all an act. The purplish-black blood on his body was not his own, but the blood of the devil race soldiers. Despicable bastard. When he saw me return to Heavenly Lion Pass, he guessed my thoughts. Therefore, he purposely pretended to be defeated to test my reaction. In the end, I was careless and was deceived by him. I even comforted him with good intentions. When he heard that, he must have thought that it was funny and thought that I was extremely stupid. Ah, too despicable. Lu Baishuang clenched her fists and stomped her feet in anger. She could not wait to beat Ji Tianqing up. At this moment, two generals covered in blood rushed over from afar. These two were Xie Wen and Zhong Lin. The two of them excitedly came to Lu Baishuang and bowed emotionally. They reporting to Saint Emperor, our army has won a complete victory and captured Luoying Valley. Saint Emperor, Deputy Commander Ji's military skills are godly and his bravery is unparalleled. Not only did he capture Luoying Valley, he also annihilated more than 700,000 devil race soldiers. The two of them were so excited that they did not care about Lu Baishuang's strange expression, and reported the situation of the battle to themselves. Lord Saint Emperor, Vice Marshal Ji has only been in office for 3 days, yet he has already achieved 2 great victories in a row. No, he is truly a rare talent in the world. No, a war god. Now that Qifeng Mountain and Luoying Valley have been captured by our army, 2 gaps have been dug out in the demon army's defensive line. It is already in imminent danger. The demon camp was in a state of panic, But the morale of our soldiers was like a rainbow. With Deputy Commander Ji leading the army, victory is just around the corner. Lu Baishuang gradually calmed down, suppressed the anger in his heart, and showed a gratified smile. Even if she was angry with Ji Tianxing, she couldn't deny Ji Tianxing's contribution. When Xie Wen and Zhong Lin talked about Ji Tianxing, their faces were full of worship and reverence. This made Lu Baishuang very curious. How did Ji Tianxing do it? She waved her hand and asked Xie Wen and Zhong Lin, "Generals, you followed Deputy Commander Ji into the battle last night. You should know what happened. Why don't you report it in detail? He only brought 200,000 soldiers. How could he possibly take down Luoying Valley? It's even more impossible to annihilate the 700,000 demon army." Xie Wen hurriedly explained, "Lord Saint Emperor, you may not know. On the surface, Deputy Commander Ji only gathered 200,000 soldiers, led by General Zhong Lin and me. But in reality, Ji Tianxing had secretly dispatched 500,000 soldiers the night before, lying in ambush in the mountain range to the side of Luoying Valley. Although the defenses of Luoying Valley were tight, Deputy Commander Ji was the first to arrive and secretly infiltrated the demon camp. He personally took action, and with mysterious means, assassinated a deputy commander, 2 demon monarchs, and more than a dozen demon generals. When the demon camp fell into chaos, he created chaos everywhere, slaughtering a large number of elite experts and destroying several defensive formations. Zhong Lin followed up and explained, "General Xie and I have been waiting for news outside Luoying Valley. When the demon camp fell into chaos and the defensive formations were destroyed, we received Deputy Commander Ji's orders and killed our way in. The other 5 generals led 500,000 soldiers and attacked the demon camp from 2 sides. We attacked the devil camp from 3 sides and beat the devil army into a sorry state. Before setting out, Deputy Commander Ji secretly gathered the 5 generals and distributed dozens of talismans. When attacking the demon camp, these talismans played a crucial role. Not only did they slaughter a large number of demon soldiers, they also destroyed the demon camp's defensive fortifications and formations. The battle lasted for half the night, and in the end, only 80,000 of our army died and 100,000 were injured. But the demon camp was destroyed, and the 700,000 demon army was killed. Only 200,000 were left, and they fled in a sorry state." Xie Wen and Zhong Lin spoke in great detail. They were beaming with joy as they spoke. Their faces were filled with excitement. It was obvious that the battle last night had been fought so beautifully that they were still in awe of it and often reminisced about it. Lu Baishuang was also attracted, imagining the corresponding scene in his mind. He felt refreshed and satisfied. All along, the demon army has been tyrannical, invading divine nations' territory without any scruples, but no one can stop them. Our soldiers have always been suppressed by the demon army, and we have no ability to fight them head-on. Even if it was a decisive battle on the battlefield, the result was always to kill 800 of the enemy and lose 1,000 of our own. Who would have thought that Ji Tianxing would create such a miracle? It is simply inconceivable." Speaking of this, Lu Baishuang's mind suddenly had a question, and he asked, "That's right, what talismans did Ji Tianxing secretly distribute? Does it have such a powerful effect?" Xie Wen cupped his hands and replied, "Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, this talisman was personally refined by Deputy Commander Ji. It contains heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine starfire. Deputy Commander Ji said that although the talisman's grade is not high, only tribulation level, it can be used by tribulation level powerhouses. But the heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine starfire are the most powerful and can restrain the demon's power." Lu Baishuang suddenly frowned and thought to himself, "Heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine starfire? These 3 extraordinary powers, ordinary martial saints can't control them. He can control them freely, and even refine them into talismans? This guy, not only does he have the strength of a martial saint, but he is also one of the best martial saints." Thinking of this, she felt that she didn't know enough about Ji Tianxing. Of course, the more she knew about Ji Tianxing, the more shocked she was. She was more and more curious about Ji Tianxing, and wanted to know his secrets. How many tricks does this monstrous guy have that he hasn't used yet? After a moment of silence, Lu Baishuang came back to her senses and waved her hand and ordered, Xie Wen Zhonglin, the two of you have returned victorious. Go and recuperate as soon as possible. This time, you have made a great contribution, and this emperor will reward you heavily. In addition, the two of you are Deputy Commander Ji's assistants, and you must do your best. In the future, his orders are equivalent to this emperor's orders. Xie Wen and Zhonglin looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. For Lu Baishuang to say such words, it was clear that she completely trusted Ji Tianxing and thought highly of him. Chapter 2085. After Xie Wen and Zhonglin bowed and left, Lu Baishuang was stunned for a moment. After hearing the details of the battle at Luoying Valley, the anger in her heart dissipated a lot. It was because she could imagine how much risk Ji Tianxing had taken and how much effort he had put in to kill the enemy's general. No matter how strong an individual was, no one dared to sneak into an army of millions and assassinate the enemy general alone. The slightest carelessness would result in death. In the past, no matter how loyal and brave the right deputy general was, he would not have dared to make such a sacrifice. As for the left deputy general Yu Fu, he was even more afraid of death and would not have such fearless courage. But Ji Tianxing had done it. He had just arrived and did not have any feelings for the empire of Baishuang, but he was willing to make such a sacrifice. Lu Baishuang thought about it carefully and felt guilty. Sigh. Although this guy's mouth is annoying, he is a brave and heroic person with extraordinary courage and strategy. It is the empire of Baishuang's good fortune that he can come to Heavenly Lion Pass to lead the army. This emperor is the holy emperor of a country. How can I lower myself to his level? After making up her mind, she walked towards the general's palace to talk to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing had made such a great contribution. Of course she had to reward and commend him. Lu Baishuang had just stepped into the meeting hall when she saw Ji Tianxing standing on the sand table with his head bowed and thinking about something. He stood there motionless, his brows furrowed and his eyes fixed on the sand table. He did not notice Lu Baishuang's arrival at all. Lu Baishuang walked to his side and looked at his face. She could not help but sigh in her heart. This guy only looks annoying on the surface, but in fact he is more serious than anyone else. He works harder than anyone else. He just fought a big battle and did not rest after returning. He is still worried about the battle situation. Looking at him carefully, his serious look is really admirable. Just as Lu Baishuang was thinking to herself, Ji Tianxing came back to his senses and glanced at her. He said unhappily, "Why are you walking without making any sound? Why did you sneak over?" Lu Baishuang wanted to explain, but seeing his expression and tone, there was a hint of disdain in his tone. Suddenly, anger welled up in his heart. Ji Tianxing, I am the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. What's wrong with me coming to the conference hall? Furthermore, you won a great victory last night. As the commander, I have to reward you and reward you. Yi Xiao thought. Looking at your reaction now, I guess you don't want to accept it? Ji Tianxing smiled and said warmly, Lord Saint Emperor, you must be joking. The soldiers have won the battle, so of course they have to be rewarded. As for me, I don't care about fame and worldly possessions. As for the rewards for the soldiers, I have already written them down in the book. You can distribute them accordingly, and reward them a little more. Finished speaking, he took out a military book from his sleeve, and threw it to Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang opened it, and his face immediately changed. The 7 generals who participated in the battle were each rewarded with 20 million spirit stones and 2 pieces of supreme-level magical equipment. Even the hundreds of commanders could receive 8 million spirit stones worth of resources. They were also given a military merit and a title of Lord of the Empire. Lu Baishuang slammed the book shut and glared at Ji Tianxing. He shouted angrily, "You are simply messing around. Do you think the Empire's treasury is an inexhaustible treasure mountain? It is gratifying to win the battle, but how can you reward so wantonly? You must know that this reward is 5 times more than usual. If you continue to do this, the treasury will soon be empty." Ji Tianxing was neither angry nor anxious. He smiled and said, Baishuang, calm down first. Don't be so short-sighted. If the army can't win the battle, and the empire of Baishuang is conquered by the demon army, it will be useless even if you are the richest in the world. As the saying goes, when there is a great reward, there will be brave men. Only by doubling the rewards can the soldiers fight for the empire without hesitation. Even if the treasury is emptied, so what? As long as we can defeat the demon army and repel the demon army, everything will be worth it. Lu Baishuang stared at him and suddenly revealed an expression of realization. Humph. I was wondering why you suddenly became so gentle and pleasant to this emperor. So you want me to bleed and reward the soldiers who have performed meritorious service. Ji Tianxing didn't hide it and said with a smile, Holy Emperor Baishuang is indeed very intelligent. That's right. The soldiers worked hard for you and won the battle. Don't tell me you shouldn't reward them. These resources and treasures. You can't expect me to pay for them out of my own pocket, right? Lu Baishuang was even more angry. He pointed at him and said, You are a martial saint of a generation, respected as the god of war by the soldiers. How can you be so calculative? Those cultivation resources are nothing to you. And you still want to scheme against this emperor. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said, Don't flatter me. I don't buy it. I am very poor now. How can I have extra resources to reward the soldiers? Anyway, I promised generous rewards before the battle. That's why the soldiers worked so hard. If you embezzle the rewards and make the soldiers unhappy, I won't help you out. At that time, I will push all the blame to you. Let's see what you can do. Lu Baishuang was so angry that his body trembled. He glared at him and shouted, Good Ji Tianxing. You are shameless to the extreme. Thank you for your praise, Lord Holy Emperor. Ji Tianxing smiled as he cupped his hands and replied indifferently. Lu Baishuang couldn't stay any longer and turned to leave angrily. Of course, she didn't forget the military merit book and kept it quietly. After leaving the commander's palace, Lu Baishuang sulked for a long time. Damn Ji Tianxing, you want to use the same trick again to drive this emperor away. This emperor saw through your scheme long ago. This time I won't fall for it. This emperor will stay in Sky Lion Pass and personally watch over you. Let's see what kind of trouble you can cause. Thinking of this, Lu Baishuang calmed down a lot and started to do business. She wrote a decree and asked the National Treasury to send resources to Sky Lion Pass to reward the soldiers. After writing the decree, she was about to send it out. However, she remembered what Ji Tianxing said before. I am very poor now. How can I have extra resources to give to the soldiers? Thinking of this sentence, Lu Baishuang suddenly hesitated and muttered, The dignified eldest disciple of Luotian Mountain. The most valued god's disciple. How can you lack cultivation resources? This emperor has a kind heart, so I won't argue with you. Thus, she added another line to the edict. 3 days passed quickly. Early in the morning, Lu Baishuang gathered all the generals and commanders in the square at the top of the mountain to reward them in public. Every general and commander who made a contribution received a generous reward. Only Ji Tianxing didn't come, and didn't receive any reward. After the reward ceremony was over, the generals left in high spirits. Chapter 2086. Ji Tianxing was meditating in the secret chamber. He had been fighting for the past few days, and his mind was tired. However, it had also allowed him to train and strengthen his martial arts foundation. His strength was also increasing. He could feel that he was not far from breaking through to the martial sage realm. At that moment, Xie Wen's voice sounded from outside the secret chamber. Reporting to Deputy Commander Ji, this general has something to report. Ji Tianxing opened his eyes and waved his hand to release a ray of golden light to open the door to the secret chamber. Xie Wen, who was dressed in martial attire, walked in with steady steps. He came in front of Ji Tianxing and took out a black infinite space ring. He reported, Deputy Commander Ji, Lord Sage Emperor has gathered all the meritorious officials and held a reward ceremony in the square. All the generals who performed meritorious deeds have received the rewards you promised. Everyone can't believe it, but they are very excited and grateful to you. Although Lord Sage Emperor didn't announce any rewards in public. However, Lord Sage Emperor has asked me to give you this infinite space ring. Oh, she has prepared a gift for Ben Shuai? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and smiled playfully. He took the ring and used his spiritual consciousness to check it. The infinite space ring was filled with cultivation resources and upper spiritual stones were piled up like a mountain. There were thousands of bottles of elixir pills, hundreds of talismans, and various materials. It was a rich collection. A rough estimate put the value of the cultivation resources at over 100 million. Ji Tianqing played with the infinite space ring and smiled. Women are emotional. Even if I purposely angered her, she didn't hold it against Ben Shuai. This marshal only said a few unintentional words, but she remembered it in her heart, and even specially gave me a big gift. Xie Wen hesitated for a while before he cupped his hands and said, Deputy Commander Ji, I have something to tell you. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, It's okay to be frank. Xie Wen mustered up his courage and said, Lord Sage Emperor is the only female emperor in the Holy Kingdom. She is also the youngest Sage Emperor. It was not easy for her to come this far and support the entire kingdom. Although she looked cold and dignified, she was actually kind and benevolent. If that were not the case, this general and all the other generals and ministers would not be so supportive of the Saint Emperor. If you have any ideas or plans, feel free to tell the Saint Emperor. She will definitely understand. Why did you deliberately provoke her? You know that Lord Saint Emperor is good to you, so why do you keep hurting her? Ji Tianqing was silent for a moment before he shook his head with a bitter smile. There are some things that she won't understand even if I tell her. You won't understand either. Ben Shuai was only here to carry out his mission. In 2 months at most, he would be able to repel the demon army and leave this place. From now on, Ben Shuai will almost never come into contact with her again. Why should we complicate matters? Xie Wen looked as if he understood something. He asked carefully, General Ji, are you saying you're afraid that the Holy Emperor will develop feelings for you after spending some time with you? Ji Tianqing smiled and shook his head. It might not be feelings. It could be appreciation, or closeness. But no matter what it is, Ben Shuai doesn't want to get involved. It will only harm her. Since she is the Empress and sits in this position, she can't have feelings. She can't even be good friends with men. If she has feelings for others, she will definitely be heartless to her people. After a long time, it will harm the empire of White Frost. Ben Shuai has once wronged many people. In this life, he only wants to make up for his regrets. He doesn't want to be involved in any more karma. Xie Wen was confused. He couldn't help but scratch his head and smile awkwardly. General Ji, this general is slow-witted. I don't understand what you mean. This general has said too much. This general will take his leave. Ji Tianqing raised his hand to stop him. Ben Shuai put you in charge of gathering information. What's the result? Has the demon army made any movements? Xie Wen quickly replied, reporting to General Ji. The scout camp has done all they can to monitor the demon army's movements. We've received a lot of information in the past 3 days. The truth is just as you expected. The demon army's defense line has suffered heavy losses. You also killed the deputy general. Now the morale of the demon army has fallen. However, they still have 2 million soldiers. It's impossible for them to give up on attacking Heavenly Lion Pass. They have elected a new deputy general to continue managing the military affairs. Now the 2 million demon army has retreated 1,000 miles. They are divided into 4 camps to form a defensive line. According to this general's guess, they won't be able to counterattack in the near future. It's more likely that they are pulling back their defenses and trying to stay in a stalemate with us. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment, then revealed a cold smile. The deputy general and the top demon generals have been killed. Now only a few defeated soldiers are left. Of course, they will be holed up in the fort. If they want to break through and turn defeat into victory, they can only seek the help of saint-level experts. Only saint-level experts can kill me, the deputy general, and resolve the demon army's troubles. Xie Wen quickly cupped his hands and said, General Ji, please don't worry. This general has already passed down the order. Heavenly Lion Pass will be doubly guarded. The demon assassins will definitely not be able to sneak in and harm you. These are all useless. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, only demon saints can kill me. How can you stop them? You only need to guard against the demon army's assassins or the blood god's scions. 2 days later, Ban Shui will give the demon army a heavy blow and further weaken their strength. When the demon army's reinforcements arrive, Ban Shui will fight the demon saints and completely defeat the demon army. In less than half a month, the outcome will be revealed. Xie Wen's body shook. He exclaimed in disbelief, so fast. You won't understand even if I tell you. Leave. Ji Tianqing did not explain. He waved his hand and dismissed Xie Wen. Xie Wen bowed and left the secret room. After he left, Ji Tianqing clenched his fists, and a cold look appeared on his face. Ancestor Demon God. You're holed up in the Blood Sea Abyss. Even the Luo Shui clone can't do anything to you. I think you'll recover your deity realm soon. But you're still alone. I'll lure the demon saints under your command one by one, and cut off your left and right arms. Let's see how you'll stir up trouble then. After I break through to Martial Saint, I'll personally kill my way into North Underworld Mountain, and teach you the most painful lesson. Very quickly 2 days passed. In the middle of the night, Ji Tianqing led his 200,000 elite soldiers to attack. This time, his target was not the stronghold or the demon army camp. Instead, it was the military camp at the rear. The demon army's rations and military equipment were stored there. There were also more than 300,000 injured demon army soldiers recuperating there. Ji Tianqing led the army and circled thousands of miles before arriving at the military camp. He used the same strategy as before. He sneaked into the camp alone and assassinated the demon army's generals and experts. He created chaos and disaster, and destroyed the defensive formation. When the demon army camp was in chaos, the 200,000 elite soldiers would take the opportunity to kill their way in. Naturally, they would be victorious. In any case, Ji Tianqing was sure that there was no demon saint expert in the demon army camp. With his strength and methods, he was in an invincible position. He could do whatever he wanted. No one could stop him. Chapter 2087. The Devil Race's military camp outside the pass had been wiped out by Ji Tianqing. The military equipment and cultivation resources stored there could only be used by the demons, so Ji Tianqing destroyed them all. The 300,000 some injured demon race soldiers were also wiped out. This battle dealt too great of a blow to the demons' morale, cutting off their path of retreat. The remaining 2 million strong demon race army was plunged into fear and despair. Without a commander and a large number of experts, without resources and reinforcements, how could they fight this battle? Seeing that the time was right, Ji Tianqing quickened his pace of attack, preparing to end the battle quickly. For 10 days, the flames of war burned incessantly outside Heavenly Lion Pass. Every 2 or 3 days, reports of victory would come from outside the pass. Ji Tianqing swept through the entire battlefield in an invincible manner. He took down 2 devil race camps and 4 checkpoints in succession. The demon race suffered innumerable casualties, losing more than 1,200,000 men. 10 days later, the demon race only had 700,000 some soldiers left, defending Flowing River Valley and Mount Flying Bear. The human soldiers were also exhausted and needed to rest and recuperate. With the battle developing to this point, the demons' defeat was already a foregone conclusion. Even if Ji Tianqing withdrew now, the demons would not be able to turn the tide, much less charge into Heavenly Lion Pass. But Ji Tianqing would not leave now. His goal had not been achieved. He ordered the soldiers to rest in Heavenly Lion Pass for 3 days. 3 days later, he would lead the army to attack Flowing River Valley and completely crush the demon race army. Mount Flying Bear had 300,000 some demon soldiers garrisoned there, while Flowing River Valley had 400,000 some. As long as he could take Flowing River Valley and kill those 400,000 some demon soldiers, this battle would be over. The 300,000 some demon soldiers on Mount Flying Bear would definitely flee in defeat. After the news spread, Heavenly Lion Pass was filled with jubilation. The million soldiers were overjoyed, their hearts filled with anticipation. At the same time, the scouts and scouts of the demon race also heard the news. Flowing River Valley was extremely tense, the atmosphere extremely grave. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On the morning of the 4th day, Ji Tianqing gathered 5 generals and over 100 commanders, and set off with 500,000 elite soldiers. Before they set out for battle, Liu Baishuang personally sent the soldiers off, and even had a private conversation with Ji Tianqing. In this half a month, Liu Baishuang had been guarding Sky Lion Pass and had not left. Even if Ji Tianqing deliberately angered her, and used words to squeeze her, she refused to leave. In any case, she was determined to stay in the Heavenly Lion Pass and personally supervise Ji Tianqing. Later, Ji Tianqing saw that she was very stubborn, so he stopped bickering with her. He wholeheartedly threw himself into the battle. Apart from resting and recuperating, he was also discussing important military matters with his generals. He was too lazy to talk to Liu Baishuang. Liu Baishuang, however, pretended not to notice his coldness. Every day he stayed by his side, watching him handle military affairs and discuss strategy with the generals. Most of the time, she would remain silent and watch Ji Tianqing quietly. Only at crucial moments would she open her mouth to say a few words, but they were all very important and decisive. The relationship between the two of them became very subtle, and could not be described in words. Xie Wen, Zhonglin, and a few other generals could vaguely see the signs, but they did not dare to show it. They could only discuss it in private. On one side was the owner of the Empire of White Frost, the only empress in the God Kingdom, the most respected holy emperor. On the other hand, there was a valiant and victorious demon, the god of war that the generals worshipped the most. In the hearts of all the generals, they also hoped that the two of them would create some sparks and form a good marriage. After all, if these two experts were to be together, the future of the Empire of White Frost would be limitless. However, they could only think about it. No one dared to say it out loud. Now Ji Tianqing was leading 500,000 elite soldiers to the Manchuan Valley, while Liu Baishuang stayed behind to guard Sky Lion Pass. She stood on the tower at the peak of the mountain, and watched Ji Tianqing's back disappear into the distance. Her expression gradually became gloomy. A faint look of disappointment flashed across her bright and clear eyes. This was because she knew that with Ji Tianqing's ability, he would definitely win this battle. After Ji Tianqing's triumphant return, the crisis of Sky Lion Pass would be resolved, and he would also leave. It had been less than a month since Ji Tianqing came to Sky Lion Pass. Liu Baishuang had just gotten close to him and trusted him. Before she could have a deeper understanding of him, he was leaving. This made Liu Baishuang feel a trace of regret in her heart that could not be erased. At dusk, the sky was filled with gray clouds, and the world was dark. Outside the Manchuan Valley, there were desolate mountain ranges in all directions. Above the mountainside, there was snow and ice. The deep and wide valley was enveloped by a huge blood-colored barrier. It was a light shield with a radius of 200 miles. Only a saint-level array could achieve such an effect. As early as half a year ago, when the demon army had occupied this place, they had set up a saint-level array here to protect the demon army's camp. Now the 400,000 demon soldiers in the camp were all in a state of panic, unable to sit or stand still. The patrolling guards inside and outside the array were more than 3 times as many as before. Hundreds of defensive arrays had been added in various parts of the camp, and dozens of fortifications had been built. The entire Manchuan Valley camp was in a state of extreme alert. At this time, Ji Tianqing arrived with 500,000 elite soldiers. Under his command, 5 generals each led 100,000 elite soldiers, and hid in the surroundings of the Manchuan Valley. He acted alone, entering the Manchuan Valley in an invisible state. It was the same old method. He used the armillary heaven secret art, and his figure and aura merged with heaven and earth. After silently entering the Manchuan Valley, he spent an hour to break the saint-level array. Then, he flew across the gloomy sky and arrived above the camp, silently investigating the situation. Although demon qi lingered in the camp, and defensive arrays were everywhere, but under the probing of his divine sense, Those demon army soldiers hiding in the camps and arrays had nowhere to hide. He quickly saw that the 9 camps distributed in the outer ring of the valley were all ordinary demon army soldiers. Many demon generals lived in a palace built of black stone in the center, but their positions were not high and their strength was very ordinary. Only the 3 lofty black palaces in the center had 20-some tribulation transcending realm demon experts, all of them generals of the demon lord. Upon seeing this situation, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but frown, a hint of confusion flashing through his eyes. Logically speaking, I've already fought for 20-some days, taken down so many forts and checkpoints, and slaughtered so many demon army soldiers. The demons should have sent word long ago, and the demon saint experts should have arrived. 3 days ago, I sent word that I was going to attack the Manchuan Valley, so the demons should have known. Otherwise, the demon camp's defenses wouldn't have been strengthened by 3 times. But why hasn't that demon saint expert appeared? There isn't even a shred of the chi of a saint-level expert in the camp. Everything had developed according to Ji Tianqing's predictions. Chapter 2088. Could it be that the demon saints of Dark North Mountain have all been killed or injured, and no one has come to reinforce them? Ji Tianqing frowned and muttered to himself. The great demon saint and the 3 demon saints were injured by the Luoshui clone, and must be recuperating in Dark North Mountain. I killed the 4 demon saint, Patriarch Shuepao, and the newly ascended Azura demon saint. I used the heavenly demon seed jade art to be reborn. Only the 2nd demon saint, Songyu, is still alive. He has been overseeing the northern battlefield, and presiding over the overall situation. Thinking of this, he gradually relaxed and muttered to himself. Demon Saint Songyu leads an army of 10 million demons, and has to manage several war zones. Perhaps he really can't split himself, and can't reinforce the demon army. If that's the case, then tonight's battle will be decided. The battle at Heavenly Lion Pass will also come to an end. Ji Tianqing collected his thoughts and flew toward the palace in the middle. Whoosh! He silently passed through the defensive formation, and entered the pitch-black palace. The passageways, doors and windows of the palace were all lit with dark red gemstones, and the air was filled with black fog and demon chi. The main roads were guarded by demon guards. All of them were tall and sturdy, fierce warriors dressed in armor. However, Ji Tianqing swaggered past them without being noticed. There were a total of 6 tribulation transcending realm generals living in this palace, and they were scattered on the 1st and 2nd floor. In addition, there were several hundred messengers and patrolling guards. Ji Tianqing's goal was very clear. He passed through a stone wall and entered a room. This room was a study, and there were bookshelves around it, piled with many jade slips and letters. A muscular middle-aged demon race expert in black armor was sitting in front of a stone table, reading letters and handling military affairs. Ji Tianqing appeared behind him without making a sound. He quietly shot out a beam of holy white light, which enveloped the person. Whoosh! This middle-aged demon general was completely unprepared and could not resist at all. He was immediately sealed by the white light. His body stiffened and his eyes widened. His face was filled with fear, but he couldn't make a sound. The sacred white light had the effect of purifying all demon energy, and it quickly purified his demon energy. His body melted like snow, disappearing at a visible speed. In a few short breaths, his body disappeared without a trace, and even his soul was purified. From start to finish, the study was very quiet, and there was no sound at all. After the middle-aged demon general was killed, there was no trace left behind, as if nothing had happened. After dealing with a demon general, Ji Tianqing withdrew his right hand and walked toward another room not far away. There was a secret room where a black-robed demon race expert was meditating on a throne made of skeletons. Ji Tianqing passed through the stone wall and entered the secret room. The black-robed demon general was completely demon energy, was the demon saint realm god of the abyss. The corner of Ji Tianqing's mouth curled up into a sneer. He walked in front of the black-robed demon general, waved his palm, and released a golden light, slapping towards his head. The god, the demon god, the demon saint god, he god, demon god. But at this time the black-robed devil general suddenly woke up. He opened his eyes and stared at Ji Tianxing. His purple bell-like eyes were filled with calmness and killing intent. Not only was he not panicking, he even had a sinister sneer on his face. Clearly, he had expected Ji Tianxing to attack. At this moment, Ji Tianxing's pupils constricted as well, and he cursed in his heart. As expected, just as this thought flashed through his mind, the black-robed demon general attacked. He raised his fists as fast as lightning and slammed them into Ji Tianxing's chest. Bam! With a dull explosion, Ji Tianxing was sent flying, crashing into the secret room's wall. Crash! The solid black stone wall was smashed into smithereens, sending countless pieces of stone flying. The secret room was also on the verge of collapse, and dust filled the air. Ji Tianxing felt a stabbing pain in his chest, and a warm feeling flowed down his throat. Blood immediately seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He used his energy to blast away the pieces of stone around him as he looked coldly into the secret room. I used the Armillary Heaven secret technique and merged my body with heaven and earth. This person was able to determine my position, and even injure me? He is definitely a demon saint. Only a saint-level expert can do that. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing immediately understood. He had been ambushed. It was not that the demon saint expert did not come to his aid, but that he had used a magic treasure to hide his aura and hide in the camp, waiting for him to walk into the trap. At the same time, the black-robed demon general slowly stood up. His purple eyes burned with flames, and his body exuded an extremely sharp and cold aura. He took off his black cloak and revealed his original appearance. Swoosh! A 10-meter-tall devil race expert appeared in front of Ji Tianxing. His body was thin and tough, and he looked like a devil wolf. This person was completely black, and his thick hair shone with a cold light. He had a pair of strong arms, a pair of sharp claws, and a triangular purple eye on his chest. He had a pair of black wings on his back, and a large tail that dragged on the ground. Rather than calling him a demon wolf, it was more accurate to say that he was a werewolf evolved from a demon wolf. Ji Tianxing stared at him. Sensing his powerful aura, he was even more certain that he was a demon saint. 4 of the 5 demon saints of North Underworld Mountain have been crippled. Only the second demon saint, Song Yu, is left. He is still bitterly holding on in the northern battlefield. Ji Tianxing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve. He stared at the demon and asked coldly, "If I'm not wrong, you are Song Yu, right?" "Ha ha. You are indeed worthy of the title of the #1 genius of the human race, Ji Tianxing." Song Yu grinned coldly and said in a sinister tone, "Originally, I was in charge of all military affairs in the northern battlefield. Naturally, I would not rush to the rescue just because of a defeat in a battle zone. However, you are different. You are the greatest enemy of my race, the most hated thorn in the side of our ancestors. When I received the news that you had appeared in the Heavenly Lion Pass, I immediately rushed over. Even if I have to put down all military affairs and travel day and night for more than 20 days, I will still come and take your head with my own hands." Ji Tianxing knew that Demon Saint Song Yu's strength was second only to Great Demon Saint Ling Xian. He had reached the rank 7 martial sage realm. Although he had killed ancestor Xue Pao and defeated Azura Demon Saint, he was not confident that he could kill Song Yu. "Song Yu, it seems that you knew that I was going to attack River Valley and set up an ambush here. In order not to expose yourself, you did not set up a defensive array and hid your identity and aura. You hid here and waited for me. Even the demon race soldiers in River Valley did not know that you were here. Of course, they would not reveal any flaws." Chapter 2089. How can I deal with you, Ji Tianxing, without putting in some effort? As long as I can get rid of you, I have plenty of patience. Song Yu sneered, and his tone was venomous. Ji Tianxing also sneered and said in a playful tone, "Although the process was a little complicated, the result is still the same. No matter what, it's good that you're here. It saves me the trouble of looking for you." As he said that, he exuded a murderous aura, confidence, and dominance. Song Yu examined him closely and sneered disdainfully. "What? Do you think you can kill me with your strength and lead the Luoshui kingdom to victory? Ji Tianqing slowly stretched out his right hand. There was a flash of light in his palm, and the sword of burial of heaven appeared. Isn't that so? Ha ha ha. Song Yu laughed loudly, and his tone was full of contempt and disdain. Ji Tianqing, you're too arrogant. I'll let you know that I'm not someone that Patriarch Xue Pao and Ji Xiaolua can compare to. You want to kill me? Not even in your next life. As soon as he said that, Song Yu attacked. His palms shot out a thick fog that was as black as ink. Swoosh. The thick fog spread out and covered a radius of 300 feet. In this area, there were 2 corridors and 3 rooms, but there was no one in sight. Ji Tianqing immediately understood that demon sage Song Yu had been prepared. In the next instant, the pitch-black demonic fog sealed off this area, forming a domain. From the outside, it looked like an area of 300 feet that was sealed by the black fog. However, Ji Tianqing could see that it was a territory when he was in it. It was a dark void that spanned a few hundred miles, and there was only darkness in all directions. Only 2 huge green eyeballs were suspended in the void above his head. They were like 2 large fireballs that emitted a green light. Song Yu stood in the void and looked down at Ji Tianqing. He said arrogantly, Ji Tianqing, do you think I'll fight with you in the barracks and implicate my soldiers? Too naive. This is my Azure Soul domain. In here, I am the undefeatable ruler. Your life is in my hands. You will definitely die here today. Ji Tianqing frowned and looked gloomily at Song Yu. He secretly probed with his spiritual sense. He quickly discovered that the realm of the Azure Soul was extremely mysterious. It was abnormally sturdy and contained an extremely powerful demonic power. Being in this domain, Song Yu's combat strength doubled. Furthermore, his strength was inexhaustible. Not only was he being suppressed by the power of the domain, but he was also being corroded by the invisible poisonous gas, and attacked by the soul secret technique. Before he even started fighting with Song Yu, the Azure Soul domain was constantly releasing soul attacks, desperately stabbing at his soul. He felt dizzy, and his consciousness became blurry. Domain. Even a crossing calamity realm martial artist would disdain to use such a method. How dare you use it to embarrass yourself? Ji Tianqing sneered disdainfully. He waved the sword of burial of heaven in his right hand, and slashed at Song Yu with all his might. Heaven cleaving sword. As he shouted coldly, a 300-meter-long silver sword light lit up and slashed at Song Yu with a violent force. The silver sword light was condensed from the star divine fire. It was extremely violent and powerful. Song Yu looked at the huge sword slashing at him. He raised his right fist confidently and punched out. Break! A blood-red fist shadow that was as large as a mountain hit the starry sword light with a loud bang, causing an earth-shattering explosion. However, the sword light and fist shadow shattered at the same time. They turned into thousands of light fragments and scattered in the void. Ji Tianqing's ultimate sword technique had been easily broken by Song Yu. Ji Tianqing, if this is all you have, you should admit defeat and accept your death. Song Yu bellowed contemptuously. He waved his fists again, and instantly blasted out 36 blood-red fist shadows at Ji Tianqing. Destroy. Every blood-red fist shadow was as large as a mountain, and contained the power to destroy everything. The 36 fist shadows blasted out at the same time, and arranged themselves in a mysterious demonic formation. Their power increased by several times. In an instant, Ji Tianqing was drowned by the fist shadows. It was as if he had fallen into a sea of blood. However, he did not panic in the face of danger. He used all his strength and slashed at Song Yu with the sword of burial of heaven. Star shattering. The sword of burial of heaven shone brightly with silver light mixed with 5-colored divine lightning. 49 slashes were unleashed in an instant. Bang, 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 bang. 49 sword lights collided with 36 fist lights, producing a series of loud, muffled sounds that reverberated intensely in the void. The sword lights and fist shadows collapsed at the same time. They exploded into millions of fragments and danced in the void. It was a dazzling sight. The violent and shocking shockwave fiercely struck Ji Tianqing and Song Yu, forcing them to retreat 3,000 meters. When Song Yu saw that Ji Tianqing was safe and sound, His pupils constricted. He bellowed. Little B****. You still have such strength in my Azure Soul territory? I underestimated you before. No wonder you dared to be so arrogant. However, this is not enough to save your life. Let's see what else you can do. As he spoke, Song Yu waved his hands and formed a mysterious incantation. He controlled the territory to attack. Suddenly, tens of thousands of blood-red sharp blades and hundreds of shadow fiend wolves as large as mountains appeared in the void. Countless blood-red blades that were as sharp as fire were arranged into a mighty sword formation that pressed down on Ji Tianqing. Hundreds of shadow fiend wolves as large as mountains roared ferociously. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced at Ji Tianqing. Even the two dark green eyeballs in the void shot out beams of dark green light, aiming at Ji Tianqing's vital points. Invisibly, there were many sharp spiritual soul blades that stabbed at Ji Tianqing's spiritual soul. He was immediately in danger and was surrounded by danger. The situation was critical, and he had no choice but to use the spherical heaven secret skill. He stepped on the 7 steps of the demonic dragon, and dashed left and right in the void. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Every moment, his body would flash a few times and move to different positions. The blood-red light blades, the dark green light, and the claws of the shadow fiend wolves always brushed past him. He dodged all of them. Song Yu saw that Su Mo had a unique skill, and was difficult to deal with. His face turned grave and the hatred in his eyes grew. He used all his strength to control the territory, and unleashed his strongest attack. In a short period of time, Ji Tianqing had dodged tens of thousands of attacks. His life was hanging by a thread each time. However, his strength was low and he had not broken through to the martial sage realm. In the end, he was hit by a blood-red sharp blade. Swoosh! A 3-foot-long blood-red sharp blade brushed past his back. It tore his white robe and left a bloody wound on his back. Fortunately, the wound was shallow and did not hurt his bones. Only blood seeped out. However, the wound immediately turned as black as charcoal, and was about to rot into ashes. Chapter 2090. Although they were all demon sages, there were differences in their strength, talents, and skills. Ji Tianqing was a half-step to martial sage, but he had cultivated many secret skills of the divine path, and had mastered various trump cards. As such, his true combat strength was comparable to that of a rank 4 or 5 martial sage. He had used all his strength to kill Ancestor Xuepao and Azura Demon Sage. How difficult would it be to defeat Demon Sage Song Yu? Song Yu, you probably don't know that I use the wind-fire calamity to temper my body every time I go through the calamity. After going through the 9 calamities, my physical body has been tempered to the extreme. With the help of the supreme secret skill of body tempering, my body is indestructible. Do you think you can harm me with the soul-devouring poison? Ji Tianqing stared coldly at Song Yu and sneered. Put away these useless and despicable tricks. As he spoke, he used his powers to heal his wounds, and they immediately healed. Song Yu used his spiritual consciousness to check on Su Mo, and saw that the wounds on his back had healed instantly. Not only had the wounds healed and the blood stopped flowing, but even the flesh that had been corroded and turned black had recovered. Song Yu was shocked and shouted in disbelief. This is impossible. Who in the world dares to use the calamity to temper their body? You are crazy. Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a cold smile, and he said in a mocking tone, The world is big and there are all kinds of strange things. It is not something you can imagine. No matter how capable you are, I am already in an invincible position. You should give up as soon as possible. Su Mo's tone was full of confidence, causing Song Yu's face to change drastically, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Even if your physical body is strong, I don't believe that your spiritual soul can be so powerful. As he spoke, Song Yu formed hand seals with both hands. In the blink of an eye, he formed 12 hand seals and executed an ultimate secret technique. Soul Slashing Sickle. The Azure Soul territory, which had a radius of a few hundred miles, immediately released a terrifying spiritual power, which condensed into a huge black sickle. The sickle was 1,000 feet long and as black as ink. It was filled with a cold death aura like the weapon of the Grim Reaper. Slash. Song Yu roared angrily and pointed at Ji Tianqing with both hands. The huge soul-slaying scythe immediately slashed down from the sky towards Ji Tianqing. At the same time, the realm of the Azure Soul erupted with a powerful suppressive force, suppressing Ji Tianqing. It was as if he had been sealed in ice. His body stood stiffly on the spot, unable to move at all. At this moment, Song Yu gave it his all and unleashed his strongest ultimate move. Ji Tianqing was unable to break free or escape. He could only watch helplessly as the soul-slaying scythe slashed down. Although his physical body was strong, the soul-slaying scythe was an illusory soul attack. It would not be obstructed by his physical body, and would directly slay his soul. If his divine soul was shattered, he would die without a doubt. After Song Yu finished casting the spell, he stared at Ji Tianqing with a scorching gaze, and revealed a cruel sneer. So what if your physical body is strong? I'll directly destroy your divine soul, and scatter your soul. In the next instant, the soul-slaying scythe slashed down on Ji Tianqing. The strange soul-slaying scythe passed through his body without any hindrance, and slashed towards the divine soul golden sword in his mind. However, an even more unbelievable scene occurred. Just as the soul-slaying scythe was about to strike the divine soul golden sword, the divine soul golden sword suddenly lit up with a white light that shot into the sky. Swoosh! That holy, gentle, and pure white brilliance blossomed like fireworks, protecting Ji Tianqing's entire body. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound of thunder. The soul-slaying scythe was shaken by the white light and collapsed on the spot. The huge soul-slaying scythe turned into thousands of wisps of black gas that drifted into the void. Ji Tianqing was unscathed, but Song Yu suffered from the recoil. He staggered back a few steps as blood seeped out of his nose and mouth. He had used the power of his soul to cast the soul-slaying scythe. Now that the soul-slaying scythe had been destroyed, he naturally suffered from the recoil. His divine soul was shaken, his consciousness blurred, and his vision turned black. Moreover, the entire Azure Soul domain was shaking, and cracks appeared on the edges. Song Yu was shocked and furious. He stared at Ji Tianqing in horror and roared at the top of his lungs. No! This is impossible. What kind of method did you use to actually block my killing blow? Song Yu could clearly sense that the sacred white light was like divine power. It contained unparalleled divine power, and had a natural suppressive effect on demonic power. He could not believe that this was a power that Ji Tianqing could control. Only Ji Tianqing knew that it was the divine light released by the heaven-mending pearl. With the heaven-mending pearl protecting his divine soul, no one in the world could harm his divine soul. This was what he meant by being invincible. Haha, you're just a little great demon saint. To the world, you're just a drop in the ocean, an ant. There are too many things that you won't believe and can't imagine. Ji Tianqing sneered disdainfully. He swung the burial of heaven again, and charged at Song Yu. God-slaying sword. This was the 8th sword of the burial of heaven's 9 swords. Its power was terrifying. If Ji Tianqing broke through to the immortal state, this sword could kill an immortal. 3 giant swords that were thousands of feet long and surrounded by lightning slashed at Song Yu. At that moment, the void domain within a few hundred miles was illuminated by colorful lightning. It was gorgeous. Song Yu's divine soul was injured, and his mind was unstable. He wanted to dodge in a hurry, but he could not. He only managed to dodge 2 sword beams, but he was still hit by the 3rd giant sword. Bam! With a deafening sound, Song Yu was sent flying by the giant sword and crashed into the edge of the void domain. A deep wound was left on his chest, revealing the dark purple demonic bone inside. Blood gushed out like a stream. Fortunately, he was powerful and managed to dodge the fatal blow. If he had been slightly slower, the giant sword would have hit his head and destroyed his physical body. Demon Sage Song Yu, who was a rank 7 martial sage, had been severely injured by Ji Tianqing and ended up in such a sorry state. He was so humiliated and furious that he let out a hysterical roar. Ji Tianqing, I swear to tear you into pieces and burn your bones to ashes. You're so angry that you're starting to speak crazy words? Ji Tianqing attacked Song Yu with his sword, causing sword beams to fill the sky. He continued to provoke Song Yu with words. If you immediately give the order for all the demon race in the north to return to North Underworld Mountain, I can spare your lowly life. Otherwise, you will follow in the footsteps of ancestor Shui Pao and Ji Xiaolua and die under my sword. By then, the 5 great demon sages will either be dead or crippled. The ancestor demon god's wings will be cut off, and he will not be far from death. Song Yu was furious. He roared and cursed as he attacked Ji Tianxing with all his might. You're delusional. The ancestor demon god is a noble and unparalleled god. He is an existence that looks down on the galaxy. How can a worm like you be a match for him? Aren't you so anxious because you are worried that the people of Luoshui Holy Kingdom will be slaughtered? Ha ha ha. This seat wants to see the look on your face when you're enraged, yet unable to do anything. Chapter 2091. Back in the Central State, Ji Tianxing had seen the evil nature of the demon race. He hated the demon race so much that he would not rest until one of them was dead. A cold-blooded, murderous, and inhumane race like the demon race should not exist in the world. He had sworn long ago that he would kill all the demon race in the world. He would take revenge for himself and his friends, for the races of the world, and for the common people. Song Yu, you've lost your mind to madness. Die. Ji Tianxing swung his sword with his right hand, sending out thousands of cold starlight. The thousands of sword lights formed a formation to attack Song Yu. At the same time, his left palm sent out endless golden light, forming a golden dragon that shot forward. Celestial Dragon Palm. Bam! The 1,000-foot-long golden dragon slammed into Song Yu and sent him flying. The thousands of starlight sword lights enveloped his figure and furiously attacked him. When he retreated 10 kilometers away and destroyed the sword lights that covered the sky, a few tens of bloody scars had appeared all over his body, and he was dripping with blood. The tide of the battle had turned. The Blue Soul Domain could no longer suppress Ji Tianxing. Song Yu's injuries worsened, and his strength rapidly weakened. He knew that if he continued to fight Ji Tianxing, his situation would only worsen. He was forced into a corner, so he no longer had any scruples and used his last forbidden secret technique. Demon Wolf Transformation. Song Yu's eyes turned red in anger, and his body burned with bloody flames. Roar! In an instant, his body turned into a cloud of black mist and spread out in the void. The next moment, he became a 1,000-foot-tall, pitch-black demon wolf as large as a mountain. This was the legendary 9-Hell demon wolf, as famous as the 3-headed hellhound. They were both ancient demon beasts that guarded the netherworld. The 9-headed demon wolf's body was lithe and majestic. Its 4 thick hooves stepped on dark green flames, and its fur was surrounded by dark blue soul fire. It had 3 eyes, 2 as red as snow, and 1 enormous eye on its forehead. It was as frightening as a pitch-black abyss. There was also a pair of wings on the back of his shoulder blades. When they were spread out, they were incomparably wide. They were more than 3,000 feet wide, and seemed to be able to cover the sky and cover the sun. The 9-nether demonic wolf raised its head and roared. It descended from the sky and pounced towards Ji Tianxing. It actually spoke human language and roared with overflowing killing intent. Ji Tianxing, you force me to do this. Every time I burn my blood soul and transform into a 9 underworld demonic wolf, my vitality will be greatly damaged, and I will lose 100 years of my cultivation. My strength and realm will also drop. But in order to kill you, it was all worth it. Just as he finished speaking, the 9-nether demon wolf had already pounced in front of Ji Tianxing, waving its huge front claws and smashing down fiercely. Ask the heavens with the horizontal sword. Ji Tianxing hurriedly raised the sword of burial of heaven with both hands, and raised it above his head, assuming a defensive posture. A gigantic sword shadow that was thousands of feet long appeared above his head, blocking all attacks. Boom! The 9 netherworld demonic wolf's claws slammed down, instantly shattering the pitch-black sword shadow and sending him flying. Uft! While he was still tumbling in the void, his face was already pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Ji Tianxing's eyes flashed with intense shock and disbelief. Is this the power of an ancient demon's secret technique? Song Yu was originally a 7th-stage demon saint, but after transforming into a 9-nether demon wolf, His strength increased by more than 5 times. Right now, his strength has reached the 8th stage Demon Saint, which is comparable to the great demon saint Ling Xian. In addition to the shock in his heart, Ji Tianqing became even more cautious. He hurriedly circulated his cultivation to suppress his injuries, and waved his palm to release the 5-colored divine thunder, forcing the 9-nether demon wolf to retreat. However, the 9-nether demon wolf was incomparably strange. Its figure flashed and disappeared into the void. In the next moment, it actually teleported 100 miles and appeared behind Ji Tianqing. "Little bastard, go to hell!" The 9-nether demon wolf roared and slammed its claws down from the sky towards Ji Tianqing's head. The two of them were too close. Ji Tianqing sensed that something was wrong and wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Heavenly Dragon Slash. At this critical moment, he could only hold the sword of burial of heaven tightly with both hands, and use all his strength to release the heaven-splitting dragon shadow. Roar! The huge sword light carried the sacred heavenly dragon shadow, and let out a sonorous dragon roar as it brazenly struck the 9-nether demon wolf. Bam! With a loud explosion, the huge sword and the heavenly dragon shadow were smashed into pieces at the same time, creating a destructive shockwave. The 9-nether demon wolf was also sent flying, and tumbled into the void 20 miles away. However, its figure was still in midair when it disappeared with a whoosh. Immediately after, Ji Tianqing felt the aura of death approaching, and his back was covered in cold sweat. He didn't need to turn around to look. His divine consciousness had already discovered that the ferocious 9-nether demon wolf was quietly appearing behind him. The 9-nether demon wolf opened its bloody mouth, and spat out a torrent of soul fire that poured down like a flood. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing could only hold the sword of burial of heaven tightly with both hands, and use his secret technique. Black Tortoise Sacred Sword. The sword of burial of heaven bloomed with endless black light, and condensed into a huge black tortoise phantom that protected Ji Tianqing. Boom boom boom. The torrential blue soul fire poured down and fiercely bombarded the black tortoise phantom, creating a series of muffled thunderous sounds. After 2 breaths, the blue soul fire dissipated. The black tortoise phantom was also defeated. Ji Tianqing's body was burned by the soul fire in more than 10 places, and he was in extreme pain. However, he gritted his teeth and held on, not letting out a cry of pain, and circulated his energy to get rid of the soul fire. After 10 breaths, even the dozens of charred wounds on his body were quickly healed. He continued to fight with the 9-nether demon wolf, carefully dealing with it. The 9-nether demon wolf was eager to kill him, so it attacked wildly without caring about anything, and its power was extremely terrifying. He didn't fight the 9-nether demon wolf head-on, but used the mysterious heavenly dragon's 7 steps to circle around it. This way it was effective. No matter how fierce the 9-nether demon wolf was, it couldn't do anything to him for a while. He was occasionally hit by the 9-nether demon wolf a few times, but he only suffered light injuries. With the powerful recovery ability of the undying body, he could quickly recover to his original state. As time passed, 45 minutes quickly passed. Ji Tianqing and the 9-nether demon wolf had exchanged tens of thousands of blows, and they had consumed more than half of their spiritual energy, and their strength became weaker and weaker. Especially the 9-nether demon wolf, its aura became more chaotic and manic. It roared angrily and pounced on Ji Tianqing, but Ji Tianqing always dodged it. Finally, the 9-nether demon wolf seemed to have a premonition and made up its mind. Its aura suddenly erupted to the extreme. An endless black light accumulated in the third eye on its forehead. Ji Tianqing, goodbye. It grinned coldly, and the third eye of the netherworld released a mysterious black light beam, which fiercely bombarded Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's expression suddenly changed, and his pupils shrank as a thought appeared in his mind. This is the power of annihilation. When he was going through the tribulation, he had seen the terrifying power of annihilation. This was a power that surpassed the heavenly wind, astral fire, heavenly lightning, and stars, and represented destruction and death. No matter how strong his physical body was, it was impossible to block the bombardment of this annihilation light beam. But he didn't have the corresponding ultimate move to block it. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing could only attack. He raised his right palm and released endless golden light. Chapter 2092. The dazzling god-slaying spear was surrounded by golden flames. With the power to pierce through everything, it collided with the annihilation light pillar. Boom. Crack. There was a thunderous sound that reverberated in the void for hundreds of miles. At that moment, time seemed to have slowed down by dozens of times. Ji Tianqing and Song Yu could see with their own eyes that the god-slaying spear pierced through the mysterious annihilation light pillar. The 300-meter-long annihilation light pillar started to crack. It turned into millions of black fragments that scattered in the void. In a short moment, the god-slaying spear pierced all the way through and completely destroyed the 300-meter-long annihilation light pillar. At the same time, the god-slaying spear's power was completely exhausted. It turned into specks of golden light and dissipated in the void. Ji Tianqing's trump card had finally blocked Song Yu's final attack. As it turned out, he had made the right choice. Song Yu saw the annihilation light pillar shatter with his own eyes. His heart turned cold. Disappointment and anger surged in his eyes. However, this was already his final trump card. His time was up. Swoosh. Just as the black fragments scattered in the sky, his figure disappeared into the void. He had quietly escaped. The next moment, he had escaped from the Azure Soul domain and appeared in the sky above the demon army camp. However, he did not stop. With a flap of his huge wings, he streaked across the night sky like a black shadow and disappeared into the horizon. There were many patrolling guards in the demon army camp. They all saw this scene. However, everyone could only see a black shadow streaking across the sky above the Manchuan Valley. Then it disappeared without a trace. Most people did not know what was going on. Only a few of the stronger ones could vaguely see that the black shadow seemed to be a black demon wolf that was as huge as a mountain. At the same time, the Azure Soul domain suddenly shrank and exploded with the strongest suppressive power. Ji Tianqing knew that Song Yu had escaped. He was about to break out of the Azure Soul domain to chase after him. Unfortunately, there was a powerful force coming from all directions. It was as if the sky and earth were collapsing and pressing down on him. He was in a hurry to kill Song Yu. He could only enter the Sword of Burial of Heaven and rush out with all his might. Shua. The Sword of Burial of Heaven, which was surrounded by silver flames, passed through the void with great difficulty and was about to penetrate the barrier of the domain. But at this moment, the Azure Soul domain exploded. Boom. The realm of the Azure Soul exploded with green flames and icy blue soul fire. Like a huge mushroom cloud, it rose in the Devil Army camp. An earth-shattering boom shook the entire valley, causing everything within a radius of 1,000 miles to shake. Countless ravines appeared on the ground, and the surrounding mountain peaks also cracked, causing countless rocks and soil to collapse. As for the Devil Army camp, it was even more devastating. The few palaces in the middle were all blown to ashes, and the hundreds of houses and buildings in the surroundings were all blown into ruins. It was only after the soaring soul flames and smoke had dispersed that the swaying river valley finally calmed down. In the center of the valley, there was a huge pit that was 100 miles wide, like an abyss. At least 100,000 demon race soldiers died in this explosion, blown to smithereens. The entire flowing river valley was thrown into chaos, plunging into extreme fear. Countless devil race soldiers surged out of the camp, searching for their commanders and blindly searching for the attacker. But the 300,000 soldiers were in chaos, and they could not find the cause. They would never imagine that the person who had caused this disaster and chaos was their commander and leader. In the pitch-black pit that was 100 miles wide in the middle of the flowing river valley, the Sword of Burial of Heaven flashed with black light as it burrowed out of the soil and rubble. Shua! With a flash of light, Ji Tianqing flew out of the sword and stood in the night sky. He held the Sword of Burial of Heaven and carefully examined it. Seeing that the Sword of Burial of Heaven was undamaged, he was relieved. Fortunately, you have become a sacred sword, so you were not injured by the Azure Soul domain. As he spoke, he looked around at his surroundings. Seeing the flowing river valley in a mess, with broken walls everywhere, and the demon soldiers in a mess, he couldn't help but frown. Song Yu is truly vicious. In order to successfully escape and prevent me from pursuing him, he did not hesitate to detonate the Azure Soul Domain. Even if he destroyed the defenses and camps of the flowing river valley, causing the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Devil Race soldiers, he did not care. The Sword of Burial of Heaven withdrew its light, and immediately calmed down. The Sword of Burial of Heaven's voice sounded in Ji Tianxing's mind. This is not your first day in contact with the Devil Race. Is it strange that Song Yu would do this? Ji Tianxing did not respond. He murmured to himself. Song Yu is in such a hurry to escape. It must be that the time for the demon wolf transformation is up. He cannot maintain the 9 hell demon wolf form, and will immediately suffer a backlash and fall into a weakened state. This is a rare chance. I must find him as soon as possible to kill him. However, before I go after him, I must take care of the flowing river valley's Mo army. Saying this, he hurriedly gripped the Sword of Burial of Heaven, and flew to the edge of the flowing river valley. The saint-level defensive array covering the flowing river valley had been shattered by the explosion, and was slowly recovering. Ji Tianxing used 30 breaths of time to cut open 5 openings in the defensive array. Each opening was more than 100 feet tall and 50 to 60 feet wide. It was like a large door. After opening 5 openings, he flew out of the flowing river valley and flew toward the night sky in the north. The great commotion in the flowing river valley naturally alarmed the human soldiers lying in ambush outside the valley. When the generals saw the chaos in the flowing river valley, they were overjoyed and cheered excitedly. Marshal Ji has succeeded. Wonderful. Marshal Ji has created a disaster in the Devil Army camp and successfully plunged the camp into chaos. This is the signal Marshal Ji gave us. What are we waiting for? Kill. Charge into the flowing river valley and exterminate the Devil Race. The soldiers cheered, and a loud bugle horn resounded in the night sky. Soon, 5 generals led 500,000 elite soldiers and charged into the flowing river valley from all directions. These human soldiers had been honing their strength for a long time, and had long since accumulated a surging fighting spirit and killing intent. After passing through the opening in the array, the soldiers were like tigers in a flock of sheep, slaughtering the Devil Race in the flowing river valley. A great battle was about to erupt. The clashing of weapons, shouts, and screams interweaved into a deafening flood of sound waves that reverberated through the flowing river valley. The Devil Race camp was ablaze with dazzling radiance of magic power, erupting with gales and shock waves. One after another, the corpses of Devil Race soldiers fell into the ruins. In a short 15 minutes, the flowing river valley was littered with corpses and rivers of blood. The Devil Race army was already in chaos, and now that they were surrounded by the human army, they were naturally routed. From the very beginning, the outcome of this great battle was decided. The bitter and bloody battle lasted for 4 whole hours before it ended. The more than 400,000 Devil Race soldiers in the flowing river valley were completely wiped out. Only a few managed to escape with their lives. Chapter 2093. The sky was getting brighter. In the Commander-in-Chief Palace of the Heavenly Lion Pass, the lights were still on in the meeting hall. Lu Baishuang sat on the throne of the Commander-in-Chief, resting his face with his hands. Ever since Ji Tianxing had led the army out, she had been waiting for news. The guards at the entrance of the main hall looked down from the mountain from time to time, looking forward to the army's triumphant return. Time passed quietly, and the sky was getting brighter. Finally, when a ray of light appeared in the sky, a messenger guard rushed into the main hall. Lord Saint Emperor, good news! Good news! As soon as the young messenger guard rushed into the main hall, he began to cheer in high spirits. His tone was filled with indescribable excitement and excitement. The silence in the main hall was broken. Lu Baishuang opened her eyes and looked at the messenger guard with shining eyes. She asked in a dignified tone, "Did our army win? What's the situation? Quickly report." The messenger guard respectfully knelt on the ground and reported in a sonorous voice, "Lord Saint Emperor, our army won a great victory and took back the flowing river valley in one fell swoop. Our army only lost about 60,000 men, but exterminated more than 400,000 demon soldiers. Only a dozen escaped. Generals Zhao and Chen led 200,000 elite soldiers to guard the flowing river valley and take care of the follow-up matters. The other 3 generals have already led their armies and will be returning soon. Hearing such a perfect report, Lu Baishuang could not believe it. She stood up excitedly. Great! The flowing river valley is a great victory. This is definitely the final blow to the demon army. Ji Tianqing really did not disappoint this emperor. He actually created such an amazing achievement, and won so beautifully. This emperor will personally come out and welcome the victorious return of the soldiers. As her voice fell, the guards in the main hall all knelt down and saluted, congratulating the Saint Emperor, and the heavens blessed the Baishuang Empire. When the sun rose, Lu Baishuang, dressed in luxurious clothes and wearing the Saint Emperor's phoenix crown, came to the Sky Lion Pass with a majestic guard of honor. She sat in an exquisite and luxurious phoenix carriage, looking to the north with a smile, waiting for the victorious return of the soldiers. On the ground in front of the phoenix carriage, there were a dozen or so white jade tables with rows of wine bottles on them. Every wine bottle was filled to the brim with jade nectar wine. This was the reward for the meritorious soldiers. About an hour later, a muffled rumbling sound came from the mountain range outside the pass. A majestic army was galloping from the north, bringing with it a cloud of dust. This army had 100,000 soldiers, and the general was Xie Wen. Following closely behind this large army was Zhong Lin's 90,000 soldiers. At the end of the line was another general, leading 80,000 elite soldiers. Even though these 3 armies looked tired and were covered in blood and dust, they were still able to hold their ground. However, the banners of the army were fluttering in the wind. The soldiers were hot-blooded and their morale was high. The army arrived at the Heavenly Lion Pass one after another. When they saw Lu Baishuang's honor guard, they all knelt down to pay their respects. Lu Baishuang stood up and began to commend the soldiers. After that, the 3 generals and dozens of commanders came to the front of the phoenix carriage and drank the celebratory wine that Lu Baishuang had given them. Lu Baishuang also announced in public that he would reward every meritorious official and every soldier who had participated in the battle. The jubilant and lively atmosphere lasted for a full hour. Finally, the 3 armies returned to the Heavenly Lion Pass to recuperate. Only Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were left. They came to Lu Baishuang and reported the details of last night's battle. After listening, Lu Baishuang frowned and asked doubtfully, "Since you have won a great victory and the army has returned, why didn't Vice Commander Ji come back with you?" Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were stunned, and their expressions were a little awkward. Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, since the beginning of the battle, this general has not seen Vice Commander Ji. Vice Commander Ji sneaked into the flowing river valley alone to create chaos, and caused an earth-shattering explosion that destroyed an area of 100 li. Because of this general and the others could smoothly kill their way into the flowing river valley. However, Vice Commander Ji is nowhere to be seen. Perhaps he has other plans? Lu Baishuang's expression changed and his eyes dimmed. A trace of worry flashed through his eyes. There was an explosion in the flowing river valley that destroyed an area of 100 li and killed more than 100,000 demon soldiers? So this is Vice Commander Ji's doing. But why is he nowhere to be seen? Did you carefully clean up the battlefield? Why didn't you search for Ji Tianqing's whereabouts? Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were speechless. After hesitating for a moment, they explained. This general has always believed that Vice Commander Ji is strong and will not be in danger. Lord Saint Emperor, please do not be impatient. You must also believe in Vice Commander Ji. With his strength, who can hurt him? He will definitely return safely. Perhaps he was delayed by something. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin tried to persuade him, but it was useless. Lu Baishuang's expression became more and more solemn. After thinking for a moment, he ordered in a deep voice, "You two immediately return to the flowing river valley. No matter what, you must find Ji Tianqing." Xie Wen and Zhong Lin both showed a difficult expression and felt strange. Lord Saint Emperor is worried about Vice Commander Ji's safety. This is human nature, but isn't she being too nervous? With Vice Commander Ji's strength, he will definitely be safe. Why is Lord Saint Emperor in such a hurry? Can't you wait a little longer? Of course, these words could only be said in their hearts. They didn't dare say it out loud. They both felt that Lu Baishuang was overly concerned about Ji Tianxing. What? You don't want to go? Lu Baishuang saw that the two were silent and coldly shouted in a dignified tone. Then this emperor will go find him personally. After saying that, she expressionlessly waved her sleeve and flew into the sky in a flash. Lord Saint Emperor! Lord Saint Emperor, please calm down. Xie Wen and Zhonglin hurriedly chased after her, but were quickly shaken off by Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang was anxious and worried about Ji Tianxing's safety, so she hurried with all her might. She flew gracefully, and every step she took brought her a distance of 5 kilometers. Her figure flashed continuously in the sky. After a short 2 hours, she arrived in the sky above the flowing river valley. In the messy flowing river valley, hundreds of thousands of human soldiers were busy cleaning up the battlefield and rebuilding the fortifications. The abyss in the middle was the most eye-catching. It was a ghastly sight. Lu Baishuang stared at the abyss for a while and suddenly frowned. Her eyes flashed with a deep sense of worry. It's the aura of a demon saint. Only a devil saint realm powerhouse would be able to cause such terrifying destruction. Ji Tianxing must have fought with a demon saint to leave behind such traces and aura. Even if he is talented and powerful, he is too young. This time, he is most likely dead. Thinking of this, Lu Baishuang's face became more and more ugly, and her heart became more and more anxious. Chapter 2094. Half an hour passed. Lu Baishuang stood in the sea of clouds above the flowing river valley and continued to search. She had already searched the Manchuan Valley more than 20 times. Even every grain of sand and dust under the ground was clearly explored. Unfortunately, she still could not find any trace of Ji Tianxing, not even a trace of his aura. Her heart gradually sank to the bottom of the valley, and her eyes were full of solemnity and pain. There is no trace of him in the flowing river valley. Either he has already left the flowing river valley, or he has already died in the explosion and turned to ashes. Lu Baishuang whispered in a low voice, her tone full of pain. Although she really wanted the answer to be the former. But reason told her that the answer was most likely the latter. In order to capture the flowing river valley and win, Ji Tianxing unfortunately fell into the trap of the demon saint master and fought a fierce battle with him. In the end, Ji Tianxing sacrificed himself, killing or seriously injuring the demon saint master, allowing the human army to win. Thinking of this, Lu Baishuang's heart ached. She stood silently for a moment before she suppressed the pessimistic thoughts in her mind and decided to search outside the flowing river valley. She turned and was about to leave when she was stunned by the scene in front of her. A black-haired young man in a white robe was standing 100 steps away, quietly looking at her. The white-robed young man was handsome and valiant, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and a mysterious and powerful aura exuded from his body. There were many cracks and holes in his white robe, and it was also stained with dark red blood. His black hair was scattered over his shoulders, and he looked a little disheveled. He had obviously just gone through a fierce battle, and had not rested. When Lu Baishuang saw him, she could not help but tremble, and her eyes gradually widened, revealing a look of disbelief. Her pretty face was also full of joy, and all the worry and anxiety in her heart disappeared in an instant. Ji Tianxing, you're fine. Lu Baishuang's mood was a little excited, and she hurriedly stepped in front of Ji Tianxing, looking up and down at his injuries. Seeing that he was not seriously injured, and that his soul was very calm, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. When Ji Tianxing saw her reaction, he was touched. When this Lu Baishuang saw that I didn't return to the Heavenly Lion Pass with the army, he was worried and came to the flowing river valley to look for me. Looking at her reaction, I'm afraid she sighed. Ji Tianxing sighed in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. He nodded to Lu Baishuang and said with a smile, in the battle of the flowing river valley, our army won a great victory. Now there are only about 300,000 demons left, and they are defending Mount Feixiong. Once the news reached Mount Feixiong, the demons would definitely be terrified and would not dare to cause trouble again. They would quickly flee back to Mount Beiming. This battle has confirmed the victory of our army, and the crisis of the White Frost Empire has been resolved. But even so, you shouldn't be so emotional that you're crying, right? Lu Baishuang was startled for a moment. She glanced at Ji Tianqing with a guilty conscience, and quickly raised her sleeve to wipe away the mist in her eyes. I'm crying tears of joy. I'm happy for the people of the empire. We're finally going to win. After the demon army is expelled, the people can return to their homes and live in peace. In the past 2 years, tens of millions of people of the empire have been slaughtered by the demons. Now this emperor has finally avenged them. Lu Baishuang was a little surprised. Ji Tianqing had clearly guessed her thoughts, but he pretended not to know. She could only find an excuse to cover up this matter, so as to avoid embarrassment. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, I'll leave the matter of the flowing river valley to the 2 generals. Let's return to the Heavenly Lion Pass. The army has returned victorious, so they should be rewarded and rewarded. In addition, I have to lead the army to Mount Feixiong as soon as possible and annihilate the rest of the demon army. Lu Baishuang nodded and followed him back to the Heavenly Lion Pass. The 2 of them flew side by side, but they were both silent. After a while, Lu Baishuang could not hold back the doubts in her heart and asked, Ji Tianqing, when you attacked the flowing river valley last night, did you encounter a demon saint expert? Ji Tianqing did not hide it and answered truthfully. And the second demon saint, Songyu, who led the demon army of millions, personally rushed to the flowing river valley. He hid from everyone and disguised himself as an ordinary general in the army camp. When I destroyed the camp and created chaos, he revealed his true face and attacked me. The second demon saint Songyu? Lu Baishuang was shocked, and her eyes revealed a look of shock. Wasn't he at the border of the Scarlet Sun Empire, leading the 4 million demon army to attack the Scarlet Sun Empire? Why would he personally rush to the Heavenly Lion Pass to help and hide the news? Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a cold smile, and he said in a playful tone, he rushed here in a hurry to kill me. After all, I'm the #1 enemy of the demon race. Lu Baishuang frowned doubtfully and glanced at him suspiciously. She obviously did not believe him. However, she did not comment on this matter. She continued to ask, since Songyu came to assist in the battle to kill you, then how are you still alive? Ji Tianqing said calmly, he wants to kill me? Too naive. I exchanged tens of thousands of blows with him, and in the end, I suffered light injuries while he escaped with serious injuries. After I settled the matter of the flowing river valley, I went to chase after him personally. Unfortunately, I did not manage to catch up with him, so I was delayed and did not return with the army. Lu Baishuang finally could not help but roll her eyes at him and said in a reproachful tone, can't you speak the truth? The second demon saint Songyu is a rank 7, martial saint expert, an old demon who has been famous for thousands of years. Even if I met him, I would only be defeated miserably, and would not even have the qualifications to fight him to a draw. You dare to say that you only suffered light injuries and he escaped with serious injuries? How can I believe this? This is simply inconceivable. Ji Tianqing spread out his hands indifferently and said indifferently, I am speaking the truth. If you don't believe me, forget it. Only a ghost would believe you. Lu Baishuang stared at him and said unhappily, anyway, you have never told me the truth. Unknowingly, her attitude towards Ji Tianqing had changed subtly, and she became closer to him. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and said calmly, all right, then I will speak the truth. I exchanged a few hundred blows with Songyu and he severely injured me. I was about to die. However, he accidentally detonated the domain and blew up the flowing river valley army camp, killing hundreds of thousands of demon race soldiers. I took the opportunity to escape. When he saw that I was handsome and mighty, a rare martial arts genius, he took pity on me and decided to let me live. Before he finished speaking, Lu Baishuang stared at him angrily and shouted, Ji Tianqing, can you be more serious? Are you talking about the heavenly book? Or are you trying to fool a 3-year-old child? Ji Tianqing smiled and said, You see, you don't believe me when I speak the truth and you don't believe me when I lie. What else can I do? Chapter 2095. Lu Baishuang could not believe that Ji Tianxing could severely injure Song Yu, a rank 7 martial sage. This was absolutely impossible. However, she did not believe that Song Yu would show mercy and spare Ji Tianxing's life. On the way back to Sky Lion Pass, she had been thinking and analyzing this matter. She was in a dilemma. Ji Tianxing pretended not to see her expression, and silently thought about his next plan. After returning to Sky Lion Pass, Ji Tianxing rested in the Commander-in-Chief Palace for 2 days. 2 days later, he had recovered to his peak state and led the 300,000 elite troops out. This time, he wanted to destroy the 300,000-strong demon race troops at Flying Bear Mountain and achieve complete victory. However, when he reached Flying Bear Mountain, he realized that the demon race troops had already retreated. On the magnificent Mount Furious Bears, the only things left were the dilapidated walls and the burning fire that had never been extinguished. It was obvious that the demon race troops had already retreated. Before they escaped, they moved away all the military equipment and resources, and even burned down the buildings in the camp. Even if they were defeated and escaped, they were not willing to let the human race take advantage of them. Ji Tianxing executed a secret technique and found out that the demon race troops had escaped 2 days ago. Now that 2 days had passed, the 300,000-strong demon race troops had already left Sky Lion Pass. Even if Ji Tianxing led the troops to chase after them, he might not be able to catch up. Even if he caught up, it would be half a month later, and they would have left Luoshui Holy Kingdom's territory. Ji Tianxing pounced on empty air, and was naturally a little depressed in his heart. However, this result was within his expectations, and there was nothing to be angry about. He took a tour around the Flying Bear Mountain, then returned to the Sky Lion Pass with 300,000 elite soldiers. After returning to Sky Lion Pass, he let the soldiers rest in their barracks, and entered the Commander-in-Chief Palace alone to look for Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang was in the study room. She sat in front of the table, and was deep in thought. Ji Tianxing came in front of her and shouted softly, "Lu Baishuang, I have something to tell you." Lu Baishuang's thoughts were interrupted, and she hurriedly raised her head to look at him. "You are back so quickly? It seems that the army of demons in the Flying Bear Mountain has already fled?" Ji Tianxing nodded and said, "You guessed right. This is also expected." Lu Baishuang nodded slightly, stared at him, and asked in a low voice, "You came to find me now, is it to tell me that you are leaving?" Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. "That's right, you're really smart." Lu Baishuang was praised, but he wasn't happy at all. With a desolate expression he said, "How could I not guess?" "Long ago, you told me that you came to Heavenly Lion Pass to expel the demon army. You said that you were pressed for time and couldn't afford to waste any time." Ji Tianxing nodded and said, "That's right. Expelling the devil army and saving the north of the Luo River God country is my mission. Now that the mission has been completed, of course I have to leave. The Heavenly Lion Pass is already safe. Next, you just need to send the army to continue extending northward, and you will be able to reclaim the lost land. Even if you encounter some remnants of the devil race, you can easily deal with them. The people of the White Frost Empire will no longer have to live in fear and be forced to leave their homes. However, the other empires are still fighting with the devil army, and they are still in an abyss of suffering. I have to rush over to help as soon as possible to avoid more casualties." Lu Baishuang listened quietly, and when he finished, he slowly got up and bowed to him. "Ji Tianxing, on behalf of the 3 billion people of the White Frost Empire, this emperor sincerely thanks you. No matter when, the White Frost Empire will always open its doors to you, and we will always welcome your arrival." Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and said, "Many thanks for Holy Emperor Baishuang's kindness. This Ji will take his leave now, and we will meet again someday." He cupped his fists to Lu Baishuang and turned to leave. Lu Baishuang was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but shout, "Wait!" Ji Tianxing turned to look at her, raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's wrong? Is there anything else?" You. Lu Baishuang hesitated for a moment, then gathered her courage and asked, "If you leave now, I don't know when we will meet again. Don't you have anything you want to say to me?" Ji Tianqing thought seriously for a moment, and said solemnly, "No." Lu Baishuang's expression suddenly stiffened, and her eyes flashed with deep disappointment. However, she immediately recovered and said with a smile, "You are still not serious. Forget it, you can leave now. This emperor will report the matter of you helping the Heavenly Lion Pass to Luotian Mountain, and Lord Divine Master in detail, and ask Lord Divine Master to reward you according to your merits." "Many thanks." Ji Tianqing cupped his fists to her, then turned and left the study. This time, Lu Baishuang didn't stop him. She stood at the door of the study in a daze, watching Ji Tianqing's figure disappear at the end of the corridor. After a long time, she sighed faintly, turned around and returned to the study with a lonely expression, and continued to bury herself in official business. When he came to the Heavenly Lion Pass, Ji Tianqing came alone, and he didn't make a sound. When he left the Heavenly Lion Pass, he was also alone, and didn't attract anyone's attention. After he left the Heavenly Lion Pass, he stepped on the clouds and flew towards the east. The east of the White Frost Empire was close to the Changlong Empire. The situation of the Changlong Empire was worse than that of the White Frost Empire. More than half of its territory had already been invaded by the Devil Race. Since the Devil Race army invaded the Luotian Kingdom, more than 200 million people of the Changlong Empire had already died in the flames of war. More than 1 billion people were forced to flee their homes and became homeless refugees. Fortunately, the surrounding empires had provided the Changlong Empire with corresponding help under the request of Luotian Mountain. If not for this, the Changlong Empire would have been unable to hold on until now, and would have collapsed long ago. Ji Tianqing's next target was the Changlong Empire. While he was flying, he calculated silently in his heart. Now the Devil Race army has already killed their way to the center of the Changlong Empire. The battle line is hundreds of thousands of miles long, and there are more than 20 checkpoints in between. However, there are only 2 checkpoints that are the most important, and they are the gateways to the thousands of cities in the south. Once those 2 checkpoints are broken, the Devil Race army will be able to lead the army south and invade the entire Changlong Empire. According to the previous intelligence, there are more than 2 million soldiers stationed in the Celestial Approach Pass and the Long Mountain Canyon respectively, and they have been desperately resisting the Devil Race's attack. Since the Celestial Approach Pass is closer to me, I will go there first to take a look. After making up his mind, Ji Tianqing slightly adjusted his flying direction and rushed towards the Celestial Approach Pass. He flew continuously for 8 days and nights before he entered the Changlong Empire. He only reached the vicinity of the Celestial Approach Pass on the evening of the 12th day. When he was still a few hundred miles away, he could already see the Celestial Approach Pass that had existed since ancient times, and he could feel the majestic aura. Under the setting sun, the sky was filled with gray clouds, but it was dyed with a faint layer of blood. Chapter 2096. Ji Tianqing was the god of death who had killed his way through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He was very sensitive to the smell of blood. Seeing the sky dyed red with blood and smelling the thick scent of blood, he realized that something was wrong. He sped up and flew towards the immortal Lincian Pass. Soon, he saw the sky in front of him lit up with colorful rays of spiritual energy. There were also low rumbling noises that spread out wave after wave. Hurricanes started to blow between heaven and earth. Those were the shock waves from the battle. The trees on the mountains were all blown away. I didn't think that I would come at the right time. The demon army is attacking the immortal Lincian Pass. Ji Tianqing raised an eyebrow. His eyes flashed with cold murderous intent. After 20 breaths, he was 100 miles away from the immortal Lincian Pass. He stopped in the sky. He looked down from the sky, and immediately saw the situation at the immortal Lincian Pass. The famous immortal Lincian Pass was a giant mountain that was 10,000 meters tall. It was majestic and boundless. On the south side of the giant mountain was a rolling mountain range. The mountain was covered with dark green primitive forests. On the north side of the giant mountain was a vast plain. There were no mountains, forests, or lakes. This giant mountain existed 10,000 years ago and gave birth to many myths and legends. Standing at the peak of the immortal Lincian Pass, one could reach out and touch the stars in the sky. Every full moon night, the bright moonlight would shine on the mountain peak. It made one feel pure and holy. But now the immortal Lincian Pass had become a battlefield. It was a land of blood. On the mountain peak, there was an open space with a radius of 100 miles. There were many palaces and courtyards built there. There was also a giant military camp. On the mountain range behind the giant mountain, there were tens of thousands of buildings lined up in a row. They formed a military camp that was 300 miles long. There were more than 2 million human soldiers from different empires. They were stationed in this military camp. At this moment, on the north side of the giant mountain, there were hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers. They were like a black sea rushing towards the immortal Lincian Pass. There were about 600,000 demons. They were divided into 6 armies and arranged in different formations. They were attacking the immortal Lincian Pass fiercely. All kinds of powerful demonic path secret techniques, dazzling blood-red light, and soul fire poured down crazily on the battlefield. Countless mountain-like, ferocious-looking demonic beasts let out deafening roars and fiercely charged at the formation of human warriors. About 500,000 human soldiers formed a defensive formation outside the Celestial Arrival Pass, resisting with all their might. Every minute, every second, countless human warriors were killed, falling into puddles of blood without even having a complete body. Cries of agony rang out incessantly. Streaks of bright red blood splattered, causing a hazy blood mist to accumulate above the battlefield. Ji Tianxing's gaze left the battlefield and gradually moved upwards. Soon he saw thousands of demon clan and human clan generals fighting each other in the sky above the battlefield. There were more than 20 blood gods illusions hiding in the clouds, devouring blood chi and souls to strengthen themselves. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing no longer hesitated. His figure flashed and rushed to the battlefield. Shua. He teleported 30 miles away and appeared behind a blood god's illusion. This blood god's illusion was very cunning. Its body turned into a wisp of dark red blood mist, flying in the sky without attracting too much attention. It was absorbing the blood chi from all directions and merging it into its body. Suddenly, a dazzling holy white light came from behind it. That holy white light condensed into a giant sword that was 30 feet long, erupting with an invincible and destructive power. The blood god's illusion felt the power of the holy white light, and was instantly filled with fear and fear. It quickly teleported away. However, it was only at the 3rd level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. How could it escape from Ji Tianxing's attack? Shua. With a flash, the white light giant sword slashed the blood god's illusion's body. It was cut in half on the spot, turning into 2 dark red blood mists. Before it could counterattack or escape, the holy white light spread out and immediately enveloped the 2 halves of its body. Under the purification of the holy white light, the dark red blood mist quickly dissipated like snow melting. In just 3 breaths, this blood god's illusion was completely purified by the holy white light and disappeared completely. Until the moment it disappeared, it still didn't understand what was going on, let alone who killed it. Ji Tianxing killed a blood god's illusion in one move, and didn't stop to kill another blood god's illusion. He used the same trick again. While the blood god's illusion was unprepared, he waved his hand and released a dazzling white light. Shua. After a few breaths, this blood god's illusion was also purified by the white light and completely disappeared. Next, Ji Tianxing's figure kept flashing in the sky, killing one blood god's illusion after another. Most of the blood god's illusions were devouring the blood chi and souls on the battlefield. However, there were also a few blood god's illusions that quietly released plagues and poisons, causing all kinds of disasters. Their lethality was very shocking. The plagues and poisons released could poison thousands of soldiers in an instant. Fortunately, Ji Tianxing got rid of these blood god's illusions in time to prevent the disaster from spreading further. 15 minutes later, He killed 21 Blood God's illusions. The 5 surviving Blood God's illusions all discovered his existence and saw his terrifying means. The 5 Blood God's illusions didn't dare to stay any longer. They hurriedly fled to the north, away from the battlefield. Ji Tianqing was just about to chase after them when he was stopped by 9 demon race powerhouses. These 9 demon race powerhouses were all in the 2nd or 3rd level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm, and led 20,000 to 30,000 demon race warriors. They were powerful, and their auras were ferocious. Without saying a word, they used their secret techniques to surround and attack Ji Tianqing. Shua shua. Suddenly, the sky was covered with the brilliance of spells. All kinds of ferocious and terrifying phantoms of demon race secret techniques covered the sky within a 5-kilometer radius. Such a huge commotion also alarmed the human generals in the sky. More than 20 human generals discovered Ji Tianqing's presence. Although he was wearing a white robe, he didn't wear armor like the generals. However, the 20 or so human generals all looked worried and rushed over to save him. Unfortunately, everyone was rather far away and was simply unable to save Ji Tianqing in time. Ji Tianqing was about to be drowned by the brilliance of spells and blasted into pieces on the spot. However, a scene that left everyone dumbfounded appeared. Even though he was in a dangerous situation, he calmly took out a black sword and waved it calmly, sending out dozens of sword lights. Star shatter. 49 silver sword lights bloomed like lotuses, illuminating the sky within a 100-kilometer radius. No matter how powerful the demon race secret techniques were, how ferocious the blood lights and demon soul phantoms were, they all collapsed and dissipated after meeting the starry sword lights. The dazzling starry sword lights actually defeated all the attacks. Not only that, you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.